An entitled Karen and her friends come into my restaurant and completely humiliate my coworker, treating him like garbage and making him a nervous wreck. But after I found out they're actually employees at one of our sister location, I decide to get some well-needed revenge, as I coordinate with my boss to get them fired right there on the spot. And it was honestly the most satisfying experience of my life to watch these people cry and beg to keep their job with their manager over the phone. Here's what happened. Once upon the before time in 2015, I worked my way through nursing school as a waitress in a restaurant. This restaurant did not advertise, and they prided themselves on word of mouth for their popularity. And trust me, this will be important later on. I'd been there for several months at this point, and had proved myself reliable and knowledgeable enough to help train new waiters, though not technically a trainer, but I could still be relied upon to support new workers once the trainer set them loose. We had one older guy who had just been released, and he was a little awkward, a little shy, and worried about mistakes, which is absolutely expected, but also he was great to work with. On the night of our tale, he was in the section next to mine, he was easy to keep an eye on, and easy to hop in and prop him up when it hit the weeds. This was his first night with his own complete section. Weeds would be abound, but I was ready. But what he wasn't ready for was his first demanding round table of about 6 people in their 20s with really bad attitudes. He came to me worried and confused. He said to me, "Well, they want all this different stuff, but I just don't think we have any of that on our menu, right? She's telling me we have the ingredients and that I just need to make it, and that the other location makes it all the time." Now, yes, I could have taught him to stand his ground, but feeling nerves in the first night with your own section isn't the time for this to go over well. So I told him to ask the back line and see if they're willing, and if not, I would go talk to the table. So he checks with the cooks and they're completely fine with it, so from our end, this is no problem. Well, this was apparently the cue for the leader of the table to demand something every time he came to the table. As soon as he brought the last requested item, she needed something else. Now, I thought it was possible and I had been keeping an eye on him, but seeing his panicked face, I just gave him a nod and I started checking in on his other tables, slotting them basically into my own table cycles. Which, guess what? That's the reasons why I'm paired with him. This carried on for their entire meal, incredibly needy and demanding his full attention with zero apology or kindness. I made sure to catch him in the back to prepare for possibly getting no tip, but also just to calm the panic and to remind him that I would not be touching the tips from his other tables. Honestly, this poor guy looked like he was about to quit on the spot. This leader was rude and impatient and gave him no space to breathe. I was basically his emotional support animal at this point, but knowing that he was at least twice my age made it even worse for him. The table had come in close to the end of the night and ended up staying past our section's closing, so they were the last table on our side of the restaurant. And that's when he came to me asking how to do an employee discount, that they wanted to use more than one on a single ticket, and he was wondering if that was okay. And at this point, I was confused. I thought to myself, wait, employee? What are you talking about? That's when he shared that she had spent the entire meal berating and making fun of him because, for starters, she was a trainer at our other location, and secondly, he was the worst waiter she had ever seen. I mean, no wonder the other location made her special meals. And I had zero surprise that he was such a wreck. On top of that, she was claiming there were multiple birthdays in the group, so free cakes all around, and she wants the birthday song immediately. To say that I was livid is saying lava is warm. I was ready to throw hands for this poor man. Instead, I told him to prep the cakes, but don't go out just yet. I would get the boss about the employee discount, even though it's not needed and we could do it ourselves, but this is such a special case, and I would gather the workers for the birthday song. Well, the managers were absolutely amazing. We loved each other and all of them had our backs, which is very rare in restaurants, so this is almost the best part. I gave the front-end boss a quick rundown of the table's antics, and remember the word-of-mouth restaurant mentality? Yeah, the boss was not having a restaurant employee acting so cruelly, even if she was his employee. I asked permission for what I wanted to do, and he smiled and gave permission as he grabbed the employee numbers given for the discounts, which that trainer would have known could not be stacked, and told me he had a boss-to-boss phone call to make. I then ran to every employee that I could grab, and remember, half the restaurant was closing down, so we had several people available, including a dishwasher. Then I gave them the fastest explanation of the table and the plan. Then I told the poor nerve-wracked server that we were ready to drop cakes. The crowd that arrived to that 6-person table was honestly the largest we had ever had for a birthday song, and I'm pretty confident the largest that restaurant will ever have. We served free cakes in front of every seat, and the leader had the most self-satisfied smirk as we all grinned ecstatically and lined up to sing. And my god, did we sing. We all sang that birthday song as loud as possible. Please do recall that they were the last table in the section, and just so you can picture it, I should mention that this table was in the corner as well. So while we were screaming the birthday song, it was bouncing back from that corner as well, and it was an excruciatingly long song. Their smiles dropped immediately and their hands covered their ears as they jumped with the audio onslaught. I know that it hurt my ears, and that pain is something that still makes me smile to this day. We all just stood there in a giant group, happily screaming our restaurant's special happy birthday song, and it still warms my heart all these years later. More than that, while we were gathering and planning and destroying eardrums, our boss was making phone calls in the office. Yes, he called her restaurant manager and informed them of her behavior. And no, she didn't get stacked employee discounts. In fact, she didn't get her discount at all. Now, I would know this because I was there when she was handed the phone from my front-end manager at the host desk, and when she started to cry and tried to make her excuse for why she shouldn't be fired. But the general manager had been called, her employee number had been shared, and she was done. Now, I'm not psychic. She could have gone back to her home location and convinced someone to hire her back. I mean, anything is possible, but I know how she treated this poor guy. I know how I told the tale to my boss, and I know the quiet rage he so rarely touched when it was rage. I would have almost given up joining in that screaming song to be able to hear those phone calls. But honestly, it was all satisfying, and it really was the perfect revenge. Oh my gosh, this was beautiful. As someone who's worked in the restaurant industry for several years, anybody who acts like this while also working in the restaurant industry, in my opinion, is like the most evil thing you can do. Because dude, we should be on the same side right now. How do you not see immediately that the guy who's serving you is clearly new? He doesn't know what he's doing, he's still figuring things out, and you're sitting here berating him and treating him like garbage? Like, dude, what's happening? So in my opinion, I love the fact that they got fired. Like seriously, they deserve to get kicked to the curb. And what I'm gonna say might sound really evil, but I think it's great that she started crying. Holy crap, talk about coming to a reckoning of your like really crappy decisions. Like you can't just treat someone like that and expect to get away with it. That is some insane behavior, and I just love the fact that they got caught and they got fired. And hopefully that was a permanent arrangement because good lord, their attitude was just completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My psycho entitled sister-in-law demands that me and my husband take down our Ring doorbell cameras as she believes that we're trying to track her every move. But after we refused to do so, this suddenly became a massive family issue, putting me and my family in a weird situation all over someone's supposed privacy. Because right now, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. So my husband and I recently installed a Ring camera above our garage. Our neighbor has had a few break-ins, and the camera covers our driveway and the sidewalk in front of our house. That is literally it. My sister-in-law, who I will call Sarah for the sake of the story, moved in with us temporarily 2 months ago while she gets back on her feet after a breakup. For context, we get along okay, but she's always been a little dramatic and very protective of her privacy. 2 weeks after we installed the cameras, she confronted me in the kitchen and accused me of keeping track of her comings and goings. I told her it wasn't personal, it's literally aimed at the driveway, but she insisted that since she parks in our driveway, I'm apparently tracking her. She told me that she sometimes leaves the house late at night to clear her head and doesn't want me knowing what time she comes home. But I said, I genuinely just don't even check the footage unless there's an alert for a package or something like that. But she said the potential for me to look was the problem. And it's here that she demanded we take the camera down from our house while she lives here. Now, my husband backed me up and said the camera stays. I mean, it is our house, and we're not going to remove security just because she doesn't like being recorded outdoors in a place where anyone walking by could see her anyways. And when we said this, she got upset and said that we were choosing property over family. That night, she told my husband that she didn't feel safe living here anymore, saying that she doesn't feel comfortable if everything she does outside is being logged. She then said, oh, I'm gonna move out, even though she has nowhere lined up and we've been letting her stay here rent-free. Well, cut to yesterday, and she was packing her things, telling everyone that we invaded her privacy. My mother-in-law even called, saying we could have compromised by at least turning off notifications when she leaves, or offering written assurances that we won't check footage of her. But I honestly think that's ridiculous. I'm not signing some contract about a home security camera. Well, my husband's now stressed because it's turned into a whole family issue, and he asked whether we should have tried harder to meet her halfway. I just need advice, and I would like to know if I am indeed the jerk here, because at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Okay, this is so weird. Like, dude, nobody's keeping track of you. No one cares if you go out late at night and clear your head. First of all, that's like a completely bogus excuse. In my opinion, she's going out doing nefarious things and she doesn't want you to know about it. And the fact that she's like, hey, I don't want you knowing where I'm going. Take down that security footage. Like, that for me is like, oh, this is a big red flag. You're living a double life that I definitely don't want to know about. But hey, now that you've enacted the Barbra Streisand effect, I'm definitely going to want to find out now. Like, dude, what's going on right now? That's so stupid. did. Like, this would have been way better if she had just said nothing. If she said nothing about it, she could go out in the middle of the night and do whatever she wanted, and nobody would have cared. Like, the most you would get is maybe like the occasional glance of like, oh yeah, she went out late and then she came home later. Cool, that's not really that big of a deal. And that would literally be it. But instead she's like, hey, you need to take down that camera. I don't want people knowing what I'm doing at night. I promise I'm just clearing my head and not doing things you shouldn't see. It's like, yeah, okay, buddy, you're clearly doing something that you can obviously do in the middle of the day as well, right? Like, this just screams, I'm guilty and I don't want you to know about it, so please take down the footage. And also, your mother-in-law's an idiot. She's really trying to sit there and be like, can you write out a contract saying that you won't check the footage of her? That's the only way we can have a compromise. Like, no, this is my house. If you want to stay here rent-free while you're getting back up on your feet, congratulations, you're gonna be on camera. Like, this is just the way it's gonna be. Sorry, but also not sorry, and I don't really care. So in case you're wondering, no, you guys are not the jerk here. Your sister-in-law is very stupid, and so is her mother, and in my opinion, anybody trying to ask that you take down cameras, all because they're uncomfortable with you tracking them, in my opinion, clearly has something to hide. And that, for me personally, would be more than enough reason for me to be like, okay, you gotta go and find somewhere else to live. Today, I messed up by letting my travel buddy borrow my card just so they could get gas for our road trip. But unfortunately, this turned into a situation where they used my card for literally everything, spending money that I honestly was trying to save, and now I really feel like they've completely destroyed my credit score. Here's what happened. So this happened 2 months ago, and I'm still sick thinking about it. My friend and I planned a small road trip. Nothing dramatic, just a weekend drive to clear our heads. On the first day though, she realized that she forgot her wallet, which was a huge red flag that I just stupidly ignored. So when we stopped for gas, she asked if she could just use my card and then Venmo me later. But I was like, okay, fine, whatever. I didn't want the trip to start awkward, so I just let it slide. Except asking for gas was only the beginning. Every stop after that somehow ended with her using my card again. Whether she was asking for coffee or trying to get a snack, she either said that she'll pay me back later, or just said, oh, can we just use your card? It's a lot easier. We eventually grabbed dinner and I went to the bathroom, but when I came back out, she had already handed my card to the waiter. I should have said something right there, but confrontation is my kryptonite, and I didn't want to be that person on a trip. We eventually got back home and I checked my balance, and my heart literally dropped. She had not just charged me just for gas. She used it for lunch, dinner, Starbucks, random little shops, a souvenir stand, and God knows what else. It was basically a shopping spree funded by my stupidity, and my credit utilization jumped up to like almost 80% overnight. Like, seriously, I didn't even know that she spent that much. When I confronted her, she had the audacity to say to me, it's not that serious. You make more money than me. And I swear, I almost ascended. I've been working all year to fix my credit, tracking everything and budgeting tightly. And now, one dumb weekend undid months of progress. I paid the card down, but the score drop already happened. So yeah, this is a massive mess up on my end by trying to be a nice friend and instead sponsoring someone else's vacation. Because trust me, that crap will never happen again. Oh my gosh, how crappy is that? Seriously, this friend is a piece of garbage. They literally said, oh, I'll pay you back afterwards. And then afterwards comes along and she's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. You make a lot of money. So it's like, oh, okay. You just see me as like an ATM and you just wanted a free vacation. Like, holy crap, what a garbage human being. I've been there myself. It's always annoying. And man, I'm so sorry that you went through this as well, because this person is not a good friend and hopefully never do anything with them ever again. My boss is stressing me out all because of Google reviews, as he's pushing for it in a way that is honestly obnoxious, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. When I started to work in this restaurant maybe like 8 months ago, I got unexpectedly around 3 negative 1-star reviews on Google in just like 2 months. The first one was my fault, the second one my colleague had something to do with, and the third one the guest was just an absolute jerk. So to make up for it, I started to do as many 5-star reviews on Google as possible. During the whole summer, I managed to get at least 6 to an even 14, with 5-star reviews per day. It was stressful, of course, but at least the boss was finally satisfied with me and forgot about the few negative reviews that I got at the start. The issue is that now, in the winter, for many reasons, I am no longer able to get as many reviews as before. I got tired and have too much stress. I feel that I'm not getting rewarded enough for that. Plus, we have much fewer clients, tourists, and activity going on at this time. But my boss is still obsessed about the reviews and bothers me every single day about it. He is getting that much desperate to even offer me like $300 $200 if I manage to get 200 reviews until the end of December. I'm actually getting very tired of this, and I feel like it's just completely unfair. It's not my duty to do reviews, and I want to go to work without getting always bothered because of that. Even when I explain to him repeatedly the reasons I'm not able to get as many 5-star reviews as before, he still doesn't want to accept it. I have got an issue about this also because at the end of the day, I rarely get the best section at work too. I usually just get the second or the third best one. I think that if I have to stress myself out because of this, I should at least get the best section a lot more times. Like, why is my colleague getting rewarded when I'm bringing in the most benefits to the company? So what do you think about $300 to get 200 reviews in 1 month? Because right now I feel really stressed out and I just don't know what to do. Oh man, I would find another job. There's no way that's possible. I don't know about you, but anytime someone's like, hey, leave a good review for me on Google, that's like probably the last time I'm going to show up at that restaurant, and I'm also never going to do that. It's just too much of a hassle from like the perspective of a customer, and I know if I was the server pushing for that, I would be so annoyed. Like, dude, I am not responsible for the reviews of this place on Google. Like, leave me alone. I just want to do my job and go home and make rent. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would absolutely start looking for another job. This sounds obnoxious, and in my opinion, you can find a workplace that doesn't make you do this, and probably you'll have a much better time. Am I the jerk for not wanting my new roommate to use my space heater? Because after discovering that she's been using my stuff without asking, I'm honestly feeling weird about it and I kinda don't want to give it to her. And at this point, I'm not sure if I'm making a mistake. Here's what's going on. I'm a 23-year-old female and I just got a new roommate who's 35 years old. And honestly, it's getting really frustrating. For context, I've lived in the Northeast for a little over a year. She moved in on November 1st after my last roommate moved out. And ever since she arrived, it feels like she has no boundaries. She's used my things multiple times without asking. The main issue is my space heater. It's extremely cold here, and I usually keep it in the living room since my bedroom stays fairly warm. She asked to borrow it once, and I said yes as long as she gave it back when I needed it, which for me is no problem at all. But 2 days ago, I noticed it wasn't where I left it. I asked her about it, and she said, "Oh, sorry, I'll give it to you now." And it was honestly no big deal. But today, while I was at work, she texted me and said, "Hey, you don't mind if I use your heater while you're not here?" And this wasn't even a question. It was literally just a statement. Well, when she sent this, I didn't reply. The heater was in my room anyways, and she can't access it unless she goes into my room, which she never has done. I think she's mentioning this because I'm going back home for a month soon, and I really don't want her to use it while I'm gone. My mom says to just avoid problems and let her use it, or just keep it in my room with my door locked. I'm studying abroad in a few months, and I won't be living here long anyway, so she says just avoid the problem. But really, would I be the jerk for not wanting her to use it? She's a grown woman, and if she really needs a heater, she can go buy her own. She works from home, so she's here most days anyways, and maybe it gets colder in her room and office space, but I don't want this to turn into drama. Also, I don't want to give in when she's already ignoring boundaries. There's also the fact that within the first few days of living here, she brought her boyfriend over unannounced at weird hours. I brought it up, she apologized, and she said she would let me know in advance, and guess what? She did it all over again. But my last roommate always told me ahead of time, and never used my things without asking first. Now, this is my first time living away from home and out of state, so maybe I'm not used to stuff like this. We're both Hispanic Caribbean, just from different countries, so I'm wondering if some things are just cultural. I don't know. Overall, I feel disrespected and weird about it, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I think the fact that she's taking stuff without asking is really annoying, and in my opinion, I would start locking things up. I would put things in the closet and maybe lock it or find a way of locking it, and then maybe just straight up tell her, hey, I really don't want to share these things with you because I feel like you're taking advantage of me, or some other way of like saying it where you don't offend her but also get your point across. So no, you're not the jerk here. This is your property. If you don't want her using your space heater, then so be it, because at the end of the day, it's yours, and if you don't want to give it to her, then she's not going to get it. Am I overreacting by being furious at my parents after they told their friend literally everything about my private health information? Because right now I'm very pissed off and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To paint a picture of what's going on, I was at an event with my parents. One of their friends, who I'd only met once before and frankly don't like she really is a jerk, but that's neither here nor there, was also there in attendance. I went to the restroom, and when I came back, my mom was explaining in detail about the rude answer to the question I often get asked. People always ask me, what's wrong with you? And she wasn't concisely saying what it was. She was at what sounded like the tail end of a detailed explanation. She was talking about my genetic testing and invasive medical testing results. If it makes a difference, I have muscular dystrophy. It's not a disorder that most people would typically feel embarrassed about, or which society has a judgmental, victim-blaming attitude about, as can sadly be the case with stuff like mental illnesses. If someone politely asks what my obvious physical issue is, and they're not a total stranger, I don't have a problem telling them in a general way, and my parents probably probably are aware of that. But aside from people who I feel have a right to know, like my brother for example, I don't go around telling people what specific gene mutation I have or something like that. I'm extra salty because my dad also threw a fit over the fact that when we were going to be seated at a table, the first option they offered was up one stair. I can in some case use my arms to pull myself up one ledge or step, but there was nothing sturdy to grab onto, and I find it humiliating to have someone else lift me up, so I said no. But seriously, am I overreacting by being pissed off about this situation and about my parents telling my medical history to their friend? Because at this point, I don't know if I'm justified or not. Okay, in my opinion, no, you are not overreacting. Your parents had no right to spread that information out for a second. Seriously, this is not okay. You can't just go around sharing personal information about someone else's life and not even giving them a chance to explain what's going on or giving them any kind of agency in the matter at all. I personally find that messed up, and it almost dehumanizes the original poster. It makes it seem like they're too mentally challenged to explain to themselves, when in fact that's not the case at all. So no, you're not overreacting here. I think you have every right to share your story as you see fit, and if these people don't meet your criteria, then congratulations, they're not going to know all these details. I think your parents also owe you an apology, because this is not something that's just casual for anyone to find out about. Just because they're also walking through this with you doesn't mean they have the right to share that with pretty much anyone else around them, because that is your business and literally nobody else's. An entitled Karen blocks the university gate, causing a massive pileup as she refused to get out of the way. Things got so bad that she even blocked an ambulance from getting into the university, as she felt completely justified to stay exactly where she was, regardless of what any of us were trying to tell her. And I've honestly never met anybody so entitled in my life, and I seriously hope that she got in trouble for blocking an ambulance in the way that she did. Here's what happened. To start things out, I live in a university. One evening, my friends and I were going to the nearby mall in a cab, and we decided to take the back gate, which was the closest to it, and it's near the professor's flats. The only vehicles that are allowed from that gate bear the university sticker, and almost always belong to the professors or their family members. When we reached the gate, one woman was sitting with her hands folded on the steering wheel, looking very distressed, and a few guards were standing at her window. My first guess was that she had some problems with the identification and is being asked to take the main gate instead. There was a small line of vehicles behind her, so I got out of the cab so that I could request the guards to ask her to move to the side. Well, the guards told me that she's not moving, so I went up and I asked her myself politely. It was then that she looked at me and said that she won't move until she gets her problem resolved. I told her, well, whatever your problem is, you're holding up delivery guys and cab drivers who are on duty. I told her a bit more angrily to please just move to the side, and I kept repeating myself to move her vehicle to the side, but she just kept ignoring me. I clicked the picture of her license plate, and I said that I would be reporting her to security, even though the guards were going to do it anyways. I asked her if she was a professor, and she just didn't respond, and instead she asked me if I was a student. My male friend had joined me now, and she started giving her explanation to my friend, completely ignoring me. Her explanation was that she had bumped into the car in front of her, and somehow that was the guard's fault. It was a little chaotic with horns, and I couldn't hear her properly, but this was about how much my friend and I could gather. She asked me again if I'm a student, and I said yes. She said it's a matter of our security too, so she's not gonna move. During this commotion, an ambulance had reached the gate, since we do have an in-house hospital. So if the ambulance was leaving the campus, it was a serious case. She hesitated when she saw the ambulance, then finally started moving to the side slowly, as if she was still making up her mind about what to do or how to extend her tantrum. But the ambulance did not wait, and immediately moved towards another gate, with the rest of us quickly leaving afterwards. And while we didn't wait to find out if she got reported, I really hope that she did, because she blocked an ambulance from getting through, and that is something that definitely should be punished. Wow, imagine being so worked up over a fender bender of some kind that you not only block the gate from anybody getting in, but you're also slow to move for an ambulance that's trying to get through during an emergency. Seriously, what was this lady's problem? For starters, it doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but also refusing to move for an ambulance is a major crime, and that is not something I would ever want on my record. So I'm right there with the original poster. Hopefully they did get punished for the way they acted, because if they seriously blocked an ambulance and thought they were justified in some way, then they truly are not only messed up, but they deserve to get in trouble with the police in some kind of way. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled rich Karen lies to my employer and essentially throws me under the bus for the first time ever in the 3 years I've worked for my company. Here's what happened. So I live in a high tourist area area with many elite and expensive hotels. Working for a company that provides in-room babysitting for families staying at hotels in the area, I was scheduled to babysit for a family staying at the most famous, expensive hotel in the area. It costs about $1,500 a night to stay at this hotel. This particular hotel has valet parking only and has a discount for babysitters for $10. Guests are required to pay for the sitter's parking, stated in the company contract and confirmation emails. I arrive at the hotel, and the mother gives me the laydown of the kids' care. After this, I kindly remind her of the $10 charge for the parking, and when I said this, she seems surprised and claims the sitter the night before never mentioned a parking fee. Now, the sitting arrangement seems to be going smoothly an hour in, and the mom texts me that there is another child she wishes to add to the group, and she's aware of the upcharge and its upholding, regardless of how long the child is in my care per the contract. This is in the contract so that the bill is easier to calculate and parents cannot claim a child was never in our care. The child comes up to the room with the parent, and I play with them for maybe about an hour. Then the child says they want to go back to their parents. So I text the mom, and the parent comes to collect the added child. The sit ends, and I give them the invoice, and I get in my car, and I'm informed that my parking is already paid for. So I assume that everything's fine. Well, about a week later, I get a call from my boss. She said she's never gotten a complaint about me and only gotten compliments, and she was really surprised by what she heard. My boss asked me what happened with parking, and I told her I gave the speech as normal. She said to me, well, however you phrased it, it made the family very uncomfortable, because apparently you snubbed yourself out of a pretty big tip. My boss chose to compensate the sit, which was not the best idea in my opinion. In my 3 years with the company, I had never gotten a complaint and have always gotten pretty handsome tips. And until this moment, I've never had any issue with a parent complaining about parking fees. And there are hotels who charge $50 for my parking. They usually are totally fine with a charge and understand that it's not fair for the sitter to pay for their own parking if they are working. Some guests even pay for parking and tip really well. But the stinginess of this parent was mind-blowing, and it's made me question everything moving forward. Yeah, it's crazy to me that these people would stay at a 5-star hotel, but they can't cough up $10 so that their sitter can show up and do their job. Like seriously, what is wrong with these people? $10 is not that much, especially with how much money they're spending on this hotel. And it really sucks that your boss basically rewarded their awful behavior, because you did everything right. You told them exactly what the charge was gonna be, but then this entitled parent turns around and tries to act like, oh my god, this was so awful. You made us so uncomfortable by saying that. So overall, that's just really unfair for you, and I really hope next time your boss has your back and chooses to believe you over these entitled parents. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for not letting my spoiled, rotten cousin take my PC on my birthday that I'd saved up hundreds of dollars just so I could get for myself? Because right now, my family is giving me a hard time, demanding that I hand over my new PC to my spoiled, rotten cousin. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I live in a rich family that has got no issues when it comes to money. My cousin, who is 7 years old, is very spoiled. He is the golden child, yet my parents are very strict about me and not him. This event happened a month ago, and it was my birthday, and I had bought a PC with my own lunch money, which I have been saving for the past 3 years, hence why I don't get a lot of lunch money because the build was $300, and yet it was still miles better than my old PC, which had components in it that were older than me. I had the stuff come in the mail, which is 2 minutes away from my school, which also meant I had to get them in one of the breaks. Anyways, when I went from school to the restaurant that I would be having my birthday party at, I got greeted by my entire family. When I brought the bag with my PC components, the first question that I got was them asking if this was for my cousin, and even my mom said that to me. Now, if that's not favoritism, I don't know what is. After I told them that this was going to be the new PC that I was building, my mom told me that she would ground me, but my dad said otherwise. He told everyone that I couldn't replace my relic of a PC because they were spending all my money for my cousin. My mom even started taking my dad's money because apparently my cousin didn't have enough stuff already. Well, my aunt demanded that PC because her son doesn't have one, and that I should stick with my old one. I had to put my old GPU in the oven like a month ago just for it to function properly. It got that bad. I said that if they were spending all their money on my cousin, then they should have thought about getting him a PC with today's standards. But my dad doubled down, saying that he has wanted to build me my own PC, but he couldn't because my other relatives were spending his money on my cousin. And after he said that, they finally decided to shut up. After that, my cousin threw a temper tantrum, all because he wasn't getting my PC. And my mom asked me if I was happy for what I had done. And you know what? I told her that I was, because thankfully they didn't spend my own own lunch money on him. After dinner, my family gave my presents to me, and most of the stuff that was given to me was cheap gaming stuff from the local tech store. And they do this trick where they buy cheap stuff and they say it's more expensive. Now, since I'm really into gaming, I can easily tell if a gaming peripheral is cheap or not. After that, I usually check the stuff on the internet, and they are most likely $5 each. But out of everybody, my dad bought me a phone. It was an iPhone 6 Plus, but either way, I was so happy. My previous phone was an iPhone 4, and this was a leap ahead. However, when my cousin saw that phone, he threw a tantrum and demanded a phone of his own, and my relatives all seemed to agree with him. They then jumped on my dad about how he wasn't being fair with only me having a phone, but we both told him that he got an iPhone 13 Pro Max for his birthday, and that they had no right to say that, which thankfully made them shut up. After this, my mom told me that I would never be celebrating my birthday ever again. So seriously, am I the jerk in this scenario for saving up for my own PC? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, it really seems like your dad is the only person on your side. Everybody else is so obsessed with your cousin that they can't see how toxic and obnoxious they're being. Like, they're actually complaining about the stuff you got for yourself on your birthday, and they seriously tried to demand your PC on your birthday and be like, oh, you can keep your other one, your cousin deserves this one instead of you. Like, what is wrong with these people? Do they not see that what they're doing right now is very inappropriate? It's truly upsetting that they would treat you like this on your birthday, no less, and I'm really sorry that you had to deal with this. Because obviously, no, you are definitely not the jerk. Because the way they're spoiling your cousin at your expense, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. My biological father thinks that he's entitled to a relationship with me after he spent decades being a complete deadbeat. And at this point, I'm considering not talking to him anymore, or at least limiting my communication down to the bare minimum. Here's what happened. So I called my biological dad yesterday for Father's Day, and I did this out of obligation. And I wished I could say I was surprised by how the conversation went, but somehow it still left me completely befuddled. For a bit of backstory, my parents divorced when I was 6 years old. My dad has either been absent for months at a time, or just generally a really big jerk. I have countless memories of him not showing up when he was supposed to, as well as being yelled at, or hearing the racist garbage that would spew out of his mouth, and him trying to get me to agree with him. Needless to say, ever since my stepmom passed away last year, I have completely limited any contact, verging on me going no contact entirely. Anyways, yesterday he told me, you need to get over the stuff I said to you 20 years ago. I was drinking, I was doing substances, and I was gambling. I've always been there for you, and it's just the way I was raised. I don't know what your mother has been saying to you, but I love you, and I want you to be happy no matter what, so just get over it. And believe it or not, that was my apology for over 2 decades of just terrible parenting. Like, in what world does he think that he's been there for me? My stepdad did everything my biological dad was supposed to do. He took my sister and I out on trips so that we could bond. He drove me to college and helped me carry and unpack my entire dorm room. He bought me my first TV when I moved out of my parents' house for the first time. My dad's newest thing is ignoring the fact that I'm dating a woman, all because it's how he was raised, let alone the fact that she isn't the same race as me. At this point, I feel like I'll say hello to him at family events, but other than that, I definitely do not see us ever having a real relationship. Wow, your dad's a piece of garbage. So this guy neglects you and treats you terribly for 2 decades, and his apology is, oh man, you just need to get over it. It's the way I was raised, I just can't help it. Almost as if he's demanding that you be the bigger person. But it's like, dude, what are you talking about? The original poster had an awful childhood because of this man, and instead of just saying, I'm sorry for the way I treated you growing up, he literally just justified everything that he did. He completely dismissed any kind of accountability, and he tried to make it seem like it wasn't that big of a deal, and even tried to lie to you and be like, oh yeah, I was there for you. Like, that is so disturbing and so disgusting, because you know the truth. You know exactly how he treated you. You know for a fact that he was not a good father, and that he did not step up when it counted. So truly, I don't blame you if you don't have any kind of real relationship with him, because based on what you described, this guy absolutely sounds like a deadbeat. Am I the jerk for refusing to go to my parents' second wedding, all because their first divorce absolutely ruined my teenage years? Because right now they're begging me to come back and be a part of their wedding, both as a bridesmaid and as someone who would give a speech. And at this point, I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, this entire situation really upsets me. I'm a 23-year-old female, and I've been low contact with both of my parents for a while. The backstory is that they got divorced when I was 13, and it was a drawn-out nightmare, and it was a pretty awful time in my life. To be fair, I know they tried to not drag me into it, but I still ended up having to live with the chaos on top of some otherwise rough teenage stuff, and the whole thing permanently changed my feelings about both of them. I do love them, but I just can't see them the same way as before, and they can't accept that, so it's better if I focus on my own life. Both of them dated other people, but none of them stuck. Although I did get a half-brother out of it. Apparently last year they reconnected and started dating each other. They didn't tell me, which is fair, but they asked to talk to me together while I was visiting for my great-grandmother's birthday and announced that they were getting remarried. It was clear that they expected me to be thrilled and for this to fix things altogether, and all I could think of is that they made my teenage years so hard just so they could turn around and be like, oops, we're getting back together again, sorry about that. I congratulated them, but told them not to expect things to change very much. Ever since then, my mom has been trying to involve me in the wedding planning process, and she wants me to be a bridesmaid, but I said no. They even asked me to give a speech, but I said no again. At a certain point, I decided that I really don't want to go, so I told them that last week. And now they're both very upset and really want me to be there because they want this to be about the family coming back together. Other relatives have contacted me to talk to me about it, and they've all given me mixed opinions. But also, a lot of them are saying that I need to be the bigger person and give it a chance. I just don't want to go and be thinking about how all that turmoil was for nothing while everybody else is so happy. I do not want them to interpret my attendance as consent to just pretending that none of it happened, but I know that a lot of people would love to have their parents back together. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because honestly, what you went through is very real. You had a tumultuous childhood because of these people, and they literally made your life a living nightmare because they couldn't sort their problems out. And now when you're 23, they're trying to be like, okay, time to bring the family back together that we ruined, and they seriously expect you to be okay with it all of a sudden? Like, how did they think that was going to go? They haven't even apologized to you or even tried to like make things up to you in some kind of way. Instead, they're just like, oh yeah, we're gonna get back together, so you need to be a bridesmaid and make a speech. Like, if I was in your shoes and my family did that, there's no way I would ever attend that wedding. I would never want to be the bigger person or give it a chance, because where was this sentiment towards them when you were a teenager? Your whole life got torn apart because of these people. They literally ruined your teenage years, and they caused so many problems for you that they absolutely need to account for. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all if you chose to stay away from this wedding, because this entire situation is incredibly toxic, and you do not deserve this in the slightest. An entitled old jerk follows me from job to job, demanding a refund on a product that he ordered that I literally could not give a refund for. Here's what happened. Okay, so this was a number of years ago, but it was still fascinating. I was working as a parts man at a small outdoor power equipment shop. A gentleman in his mid-60s came in looking for a muffler for a brand of chainsaw that we were not a dealer of, and therefore we couldn't access any parts diagrams for the product. So I told him that he would be better off driving the next town over to the dealer that services that brand. Well, when I said that, this guy threw a temper tantrum. He said that he doesn't have time to drive 20 minutes, and that there's no reason that I couldn't help him, stating that kids these days just don't know how to do it anymore. I calmed him down like I would a toddler, and I told him if he came back with a part number, I would broker a sale between the servicing dealer and him as a middleman, but that he would end up having to pay more as I would mark it up for the hassle. And astonishingly enough, he actually agreed to do this. He returns a few days later with a part number, and I price it out and I order it from the other dealer. I then explain to him that this is a non-returnable item, and since he provided the parts number, I do not want to hear anything about it if it comes in wrong. Well, wouldn't you know it, it does come in wrong. And this guy actually demands a refund, which I completely refuse. And after he gets irritated for a while, he eventually leaves. He then comes back every week or so to try and trick me into changing my mind, but it simply doesn't work. Unfortunately, the dealer I worked for ended up closing and I lost my job. So I started working for that dealer 20 minutes away that I mentioned. Well, as you can probably guess, this man follows me to this new dealership, demanding that I give him a refund. I told him that this dealership didn't sell it to him, so we would not be issuing any kind of refund. But he just kept saying to me that I sold it to him, as if because I was a person physically handing it to him, that I was somehow solely responsible. He ended up calling the local news investigations desk to report me and my illegitimate business arrangements. I eventually told the producer that came in the story, and he said to me, "You wouldn't believe how many businesses I go to, and I finally get the truth because some old entitled jerk doesn't understand what a company's policy is, and that they agreed to it from the start." But even so, after so many years, I am honestly still blown away by the way this guy treated me. Yeah, the original poster just could not win in this situation. This old guy literally did not listen to a thing that he said, but also tried to hold this guy to a sale that he made literally at a job that doesn't exist anymore. How delusional and entitled can you possibly get. And then he follows him to the new store that he could have gone to in the first place if he wanted to avoid all this trouble from the get-go. This is all completely illogical and it could have been avoided. So I simply cannot understand where this old entitled jerk was coming from, because he himself is literally the reason that all of this fell apart. An entitled old Karen has an absolute meltdown when she discovers that we don't have the product that she was looking for in Home Depot. And I'm now completely blown away by this entitled Karen's awful behavior. Here's what happened. So I was working in the entry-level solar sales a little while ago. And yes, I was the one that would be bothering you about your electricity bill while you were buying paper towels, and I humbly apologize. While in said job, we also helped customers at our big box stores when we could, and we were also regularly asked for help. One lovely morning in December at Home Depot, a woman I would estimate to be in her mid-60s approaches me. She asked me if we carry fire glass, and I say that I don't know precisely what she's referring to, but that we usually carry tempered glass beads that go into fire pits. I then say that we are out of those, but the next Home Depot 10 minutes away says that they have multiple kinds in stock. Well, when I said that, she had an absolute meltdown. She says she needs a different kind of fire glass for an art project that she's doing, and then she starts actively screaming that I'm a moron for not knowing what she's looking for. Now, I need to say that I had a good relationship with several of the actual Home Depot workers, and I ended up calling over an assistant manager who was super nice and was a reliable guy, and I actually called him over specifically because I thought he would know how to defuse it. But in hindsight, I kind of feel bad for pushing it onto him. She continues to berate both of us for not carrying any kind of fire glass. This also occurs at a screaming level and includes several slurs directed at my coworker. This entitled Karen then proceeds to call the assistant manager some awful names who can't do anything right. At this point, security intervenes and this woman is shocked that she's escorted outside the premises. And as a Home Depot within the bounds of a major city, we get our share of people struggling mentally that sometimes act out in the store. But this was totally different. This was just an unhinged, old, entitled Karen in the wild. We all stood outside and watched as she screamed out by saying, "How dare you?" as well as my favorite of her saying, "Do you know who my husband is?" And you know what? I definitely don't. But I hope you find your fire glass literally anywhere else. I will personally never understand why anyone could ever act like this in public. Like seriously, is it that hard to have a level head and choose not to act like a psychopath at the drop of a hat? All she had to do was drive, what, 10 minutes to the other Home Depot and find the stuff that she needed? Why would you take this out on workers who literally are just trying to make a paycheck and do their job? They're not responsible for the fire glass being out. In fact, they have nothing to do with it. So for her to shout and scream like that was completely unacceptable. But it really is satisfying to see that she got escorted off the premises because her behavior was completely out of line. An angry, entitled old jerk decides that he's gonna hassle me for taking too long in removing a hive of angry bees from his home. But despite the fact that I told him that he needs to leave the area for his safety, this guy was only concerned about how much I was charging him for my job, refusing to take my safety precautions seriously. Here's what happened. Okay, this just happened and I'm honestly still blown away. For starters, I'm a bee remover and a bee relocator, and I keep the bees that I remove and have many hives, and I bill myself as an ethical bee remover. So I have this job at a residence, and the bees have been ignored long enough that it's now become a massive hive. I talked to the entitled old man that I was meeting with, and I let him know what to do as I set things up. We have a nice chat, and it all seems to be going very well. I get close to the bees, and I realize that they are very defensive. They're dive bombing and attacking, and I'm not even close to them yet. I then go through my safety process of blocking off a wide area with caution tape and signage. I talk to dog walking neighbors warning them to stay away, and I talk to both neighbors telling them to keep their kids and dogs inside. And this is all normal stuff and it reduces my liability. After I clear space from my ladder, I go up and marker off the area needing to be cut open to expose the bees. Now they are not having it and putting up a full nasty response. Now I have measures that I use to capture them from the air, so I pull enough from the air and I move back to get my tools to cut the hive open. Well, I then turned around and I see the entitled old man of this story literally standing there with a shade hat as if that would ever help him with these bees. I tell him, "Sir, I need you out of the area. Get inside or at least outside the caution tape." He then says to me, "For what? You're not even doing anything yet. You haven't done a single thing." At this point, he's a little upset. So I remind him that these are dangerous bees and I need everyone out of the area. Since I charge hourly and I'm not cheap, even though he is, he thinks that this is a good time to come out and complain about how long it takes to get set up. But here's the thing, I was never going to charge him more than what I estimated, but he's only concerned about the bottom line. Meanwhile, I'm concerned about getting sued if this guy catches a full face of stinging insects. After some back and and forth about how dangerous this hive is, and how I'm making sure nobody walks into my perimeter, despite this moron standing in the middle of it, I just straight up quit. I tell him that I'm not doing it, I don't need to be exposed to liability, all because this guy is dumb enough to stand within my perimeter. I start packing up quickly because I'm pissed, as bees chase me around in my suit, with the owner's son coming out to try and salvage it. I told him that I don't need a non-expert critiquing what my process is, and that I'm leaving right now. Have fun dealing with your angry bees. I tell them whoever you get to come out here to deal with it, please let them know how dangerous I said these bees really are. He asked me if they owe me anything, and I just said no. I am not accepting anything from them because I don't want to be on the hook somehow if these bees go bananas on somebody. The thing is, as soon as very defensive bees feel vibrations from power tools, they go absolutely crazy, and it is very slow going getting them out of the air. You cut a bit of the hive, you process it, and then you spend 10 minutes sucking mean bees out of the air to keep the defensive cloud as small as possible. And this is the only way to keep people safe. This entitled old jerk shut down the one bee remover around that can deal with bees this defensive and still keep the public from getting stung, including this old entitled jerk. So to that old jerk, I hope you enjoy your angry hive of bees, because I believe that you definitely deserve it. Wow, who in their right mind would have bees literally outside their home and then hassle the guy that's going to be removing said bees and be like, wow, you're taking too long. You haven't even done anything yet. What are you waiting for? It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Do you want these bees removed or not? Now is not the time to get weird about this and be like, wow, this is taking so long. I can't believe you. So you know what? I honestly don't blame you for quitting that job, because that guy absolutely sounded like a liability. I mean, he was standing right next to this angry hive of bees and actually hassling you without any protective equipment on his body. Like, he could have gotten seriously hurt or worse, and that's honestly not something that you deserve to be liable for in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for moving out of my mom's house and into my dad's house after my mom has made it very clear that she favors my stepsister over me? Here's what happened. I'm a 16-year-old male and I moved in with my dad 5 months ago. My parents always shared custody of me, and they broke up while my mom was pregnant with me, but I made the decision to move in with my dad permanently. Now, I did this for many reasons, but for starters, I like my dad's house better. He's around more, and it honestly feels like I'm home when I'm with him. Also, I was kicked out of my bedroom at my mom's place because her husband's daughter moved in with her boyfriend because they were expecting a baby, so I got moved into the office on a couch. And then the boyfriend broke my school laptop because he used the office to work from, and his reaction, as well as my mom's stepdaughter's reaction, was that I was a whiny brat for thinking that he should replace it. They also tossed out stuff that was in my old room still because mom told me stuff wouldn't fit in the office with me. I was also expected to help take care of my mom's stepdaughter, who is literally a total stranger to me. And to top it all off, my mom's husband is kind of a jerk and was way worse after his daughter moved in. My decision to move out was controversial with mom. She was upset and angry at first, and then the upset faded and her anger kept. I was asked a million questions, and I was called spoiled when I explained my reasoning, especially at the loss of my room. I was told that she would be living there, and I was only there part-time. So to them, it made no sense to put all of them and a baby in the office. My mom has wanted me to go to her house and see her, but I've just not done it, and it's been months since I went to her house. Her stepdaughter's baby was born too, and a party was thrown afterwards, but I didn't even go even though my mom invited me. She called me after the party and asked where I'd been, and I told her that I was out with my friends. She told me that we had a new baby in the family, but I told her that the baby isn't my family any more than her stepdaughter is. I told her that I miss nothing, and I wasn't going to be part of that. She told me I am, whether I like it or not, and then she told me that she misses me and wants me over for dinner some nights at least, but I just told her no. She then told me that I should be grateful to have her, and that one day I will regret this. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because at this point, I'm very frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Okay, for starters, I don't think you're the jerk, because it sounds like your mom made a very clear choice of your stepsister over you, and she made this choice over and over again. She's literally pushed you to the side in an office space and basically said that because you don't live there full time, you don't deserve to have a room of your own. But it's like, how in the world is that fair for you in the slightest? You're already split between two homes. Like, if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing and moved in with my dad. At least there you feel like you're at an actual home, because right now it seems like your mom's treating you like an object and she moves you around whenever it's inconvenient to have you in her way. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. I don't don't blame you in the slightest for choosing to go with your dad, and if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. Am I overreacting after my husband gave out his number to a woman who was blatantly hitting on him? Because right now I am very frustrated, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, my husband and I have been married for 3 years and moved to a new community a few months ago. We have recently started working out to become fitter and healthier, and both of us have lost some weight. My husband was bullied a lot as a kid for not being good looking and has some very deep insecurities related to his looks. I'm also an attractive woman, and all his friends told him that I'm out of his league when we started dating. I regularly reassure him that I find him very attractive. He also doesn't like wearing jewelry, not even his wedding ring. Now, I've known this since we met and never really cared if that's his preference. The other day, he had an errand to run and went to take the electric vehicle out of the charging spot. He then noticed a woman across the parking lot checking him out for a minute or two. She then walked over to him and said, "Oh, is this your car? I was just wondering." She then asked him for his name, introduced herself, told him that she recently bought the same electric vehicle, and then asked him for his number in case she needs help with anything. And much to my surprise, he actually gave it to her. Now, I wasn't there during this interaction. He called me right after very excitedly and told me that someone just hit on him. Now, I was very excited for him too, and I was teasing him about being hot stuff until he told me that he gave her his number. When he heard the change in my tone, he said he didn't realize that she was hitting on him until after he gave her his number, and he thought that maybe she was actually asking for it because she might need some help later on. To be fair, he is a helpful person and will even offer help to strangers if he sees them struggling and he has the ability to help them. But he's also someone who doesn't like to hand out his number to random people, even while signing up for things, let alone some random person who he's spoken 2 sentences with. I find it hard to believe that he registered her checking him out from across the parking lot, that she walked over for no reason, struck up a conversation for no reason, and asked for his number very quickly out of nowhere, but didn't realize that she's hitting on him until after giving it to her. I think this alone wouldn't bother me so much, but something he said during our last fight has also made me question things. For context, during our entire relationship and marriage, he has assured me, mostly during and after fights, that he loves me and that he can't live without me, and he will never let go unless I want to leave him. We had a stupid fight last week about chores, and he said that this is not working out. I then asked him to clarify what he meant and what this is. Well, he wouldn't clarify. He just repeated the same thing and implied that he meant the marriage. We talked out the fight, and when I asked him again afterwards, he apologized for saying that and said that he was talking about the chores arrangement and not the marriage, and that he didn't realize that's what I thought. I asked him if it wasn't clear to him that's what I thought he was referring to, especially based on me asking him that point blank. He then admitted that he knew, and that he knew that's what I would think, and that he was sorry for making me think that and for feeling that way. He then felt distressed that I didn't believe him and tried to assure me again that he loves me and was never letting me go unless I want to leave. Now, maybe I'm really overreacting and connecting unrelated things, but I'm wondering if until now he felt like I'm a catch and he'd be a fool to let me go. But now that he's getting fitter and someone else has shown interest in him, he's curious to see if it can go further. The girl texted him and he showed it to me, but hadn't replied then or in front of me. And it's not like I don't get hit on even with my wedding ring on, but I've always shut it down immediately out of respect for him. It's possible he's wondering if the grass is greener on the other side. I could bet good money that no other woman has put up with even 10% of the things that I put up with from him, but that doesn't mean I want him to sit idle and be cheated on, despite suspecting that's the direction things are going in. To be clear, I don't think he's going to sleep with a girl tomorrow, but it's not the implausible to think that he might see some flirting as innocuous until it develops into something more, especially as someone who doesn't see anything wrong with certain things until I ask him how he'd feel about me doing the same thing to him. So am I overreacting here, or am I actually onto discovering something really bad? What should I do? Okay, I can definitely see where the original poster is coming from, and I can really see where they would be frustrated. Your boyfriend's not an idiot, he's 32 years old, and he really should not have given out his number to that lady who was very clearly hitting on him. Like, that really was a stupid decision on his part, and I don't blame you for getting upset. But when it comes to you saying, oh yeah, there might be something else going on, or this could lead to some kind of cheating scenario of some kind, I personally think that would be taking it way too far. Like, that's all hypothetical situations that are just being made up in your head, and that's not serving anybody in the slightest. So yes, absolutely be upset that he gave his number out, and that he didn't recognize that she was blatantly hitting on him. And if he hasn't done it already, I would really be like, hey, you need to delete that number and block that lady, because otherwise that's only going to continue problems problems between the two of you. Am I the jerk for walking away from my father-in-law's wife after she started speaking negatively about my wife during my sister-in-law's wedding? Here's what happened. So my wife's younger sister got married 3 weeks ago. For the wedding, my wife filled the role that should have been filled by their mom, but she passed away when my wife was a teenager and her siblings were younger, with my wife eventually stepping up as the family mom. It ruined her relationship with her dad in the process because she had to mother him as well and had to take care of the family. She wanted him to be a better dad than that, but he was not capable at the time. To this day, things are very strained, and my wife's siblings lived with her for a period of time after she left as well. There is some conflict about this because after my wife turned 18 years old and moved out, her dad got remarried. There has always been a tension between my wife and my father-in-law's wife over the role my wife plays and the roles my father-in-law's wife wanted to play. My wife's younger siblings did not end up looking to my father-in-law's wife as a maternal figure and instead continued looking to my wife. And this is something we all know bothers my father-in-law's wife, at least to some degree. And this is why my sister-in-law's decision to have my wife fill the role on her wedding day brought forth some comments from my father-in-law's wife. It was more about the tradition they do in their family, which may or may not be related to a cultural thing in their mom's family, but their family always has the bride spend the night before and right up until the wedding with her mom. They don't leave each other's sides, and they help each other get ready together. And my wife did this with her sister. My father-in-law's wife wanted to be part of this, and she was upset previously when my wife didn't invite her to do it for our wedding. But it was a bigger deal for my sister-in-law because they lived together for 6 to 7 years. My father-in-law's wife found me during an in-between moment, and she told me that my wife must be so happy that she got to keep her out of yet another one of the weddings, and how smug my wife must be that she wasn't thought of enough to be invited in alongside the two sisters, and was basically a +1 and nothing more. I told her I did not appreciate her talking about my wife in that way, and she started to make another comment, so I walked away from her without saying another word. She stewed on that for the rest of the wedding, and days later brought it up to my in-laws and demanded an apology from me. Well, my wife stepped in and told her that I did not owe her an apology for walking away in the way in which I did. So am I the jerk for walking away when my father-in-law's wife started to badmouth my wife? What should I do? No, you are not the jerk, but honestly, if I was in your shoes, I definitely would have said a lot more to her. It's almost like she thought she could go to you as some kind of like confidential conversation and really express how she actually feels about your wife and what's happening at this wedding, as if you were going to keep it a secret or something like that. And that's honestly insane in my opinion, and you definitely do not deserve that. Like, you two are married after all. In what universe would she ever assume that you're not going to talk to her about this, or even begin to take her side in the slightest? But on the other side of that, I totally understand why you walked away and why you didn't choose to stay in the conversation and make some kind of remark. This is your wife's extended family, and it does seem like your father-in-law's wife almost thrives on drama, so I can understand not wanting to like fuel that drama any further than it needs to be. So no, you did the right thing by walking away, because this lady obviously just wanted to cause problems, and that is not your fault in the slightest. My boss wanted to take away the only reason that I stayed at the company, so I decided to get some revenge in a way that would really set me up for a better job in the future. Here's what happened. So I work in an industry that I loathe. I prefer helping people one-on-one to improve their lives however I can, but life brought me to a corporate nightmare full of negativity, an overly ambitious hipster CEO, enough money for swag but not enough money to hire enough people for each department, so everyone suffers with stupid swag that nobody cares about, and the turnover rate is absolutely wild. I work in an essential, often overlooked section of the company, and here we handle massive volumes of clients who choose our company or leave. And I'm being vague on purpose, but trust me, this is a national company. We handle legal contracts, keeping new clients happy before we send them to their new team, and a million other tiny jobs that need to be done precisely, or it will ruin other departments and we could lose tons of money. Anyways, all of that is to say that there is not one person in this company that knows every aspect of our specific role and how to keep everything afloat. Well, my team lead decided it was time to leave and pursue her dream career after nearly 6 years of perfecting this role, with 4 of those years being with me. And I was the second half of this team. I was very thorough, and I focused on procedure perfecting, and I was very anxious about making any type of mistake. So between the two of us, we were the backbone of the sector. We really were a dream team. So of course, when she left, she told all the bosses who praised the ground that she walked on that I should get the job. She knew full and well that I hated this place, but I was waiting for something perfect to come along. But she also knew that I'm the one who would hit the ground running. I didn't exactly want the job, but we would all end up suffering, and I would end up training training without extra pay, so I reluctantly took it. Now, let me tell you, the sheer amount of stress of cross-training for 2 weeks for this position, while already doing my full duties, which is an extremely stressful job in and of itself, and picking up the slack for both of us while she tied up loose ends, with me creating far more detailed procedures prior to her leaving, already made me so stressed out that I was having chest pains, I was breaking down, and I wanted to quit. Now, this being the awful company with horrible leadership that it is, I didn't even get my contract until several weeks after I accepted the job and I discussed the terms, and they still haven't backfilled my position, so I am still suffering a few months after I started training. No increased pay for the training and extra work that I had to endure, and they chose the start date after the training was done. I have been losing hair, I've been breaking out, I'm having nightmares and bursting into tears, and I even had to find a therapist because I've been pushing myself to be the best that I can while also being set up for failure and having zero support. And I care about a job well done, but I am just failing no matter how many extra hours I put in on the evenings and the weekends. My mental health is going down the drain. So this is where I decided to maliciously comply. I started work at 7:30 a.m. for 4 years, and this helped a lot with my work-life balance because I am a single mom and I can be home a bit earlier to take care of them. We also have the option to opt into working an extra 25 minutes each day so that we get a half day every second Friday. Some people don't care about it, but I found this extremely useful, especially for doctor's appointments and to use only a half day vacation for a full day off. This meant that I worked from 7:30 a.m. until 4:25 p.m. Now, these two things were the reason that I stuck around this long. These kept me sane and allowed me to be there for my kids as much as I could, as well as still being there fully mentally for them. Well, I was told that if I decide to become a team leader, I have to start at 8:30 in the morning and end at 5 o'clock p.m. I asked if that could be modified at all, and the answer was no. And when I heard that, I was really upset. I'm thinking that I'm already taking on far more stress, and now I have less time with my children too, and the kids see me suffering as much as I try to hide it. I am then told that I am no longer getting a second Friday as a half day either, so no more working the extra 25 minutes a day. Their reasoning was that they needed me here during normal business hours, which literally just doesn't make any sense. For a company who needs me to keep this business going, no one was budging on this, and as someone who already hates this place and feels that no one cares about my mental health and how I have even been injured for this company, I just shut down completely. So I logged into the system to book days off every second Friday, and I asked my old team lead to accept them right before she left, and she said that she would gladly do it. So I now have every second Friday off, I don't work the extra 25 minutes a day, I get paid way more, and I'm using my title to find a way better job. So basically, I have less work for more money while I hand in my resumes to somebody who might be hiring. And whenever we have a meeting where the boss would ask if they should be aware of any time off, I just smile and remind them that I have the usual every second Friday off as a half day, and they just nod their heads. And I really hope I can find a better job than this sooner than later. Yeah, your job really sucks. These people have absolutely no idea who they're losing, because it sounds like you could literally bring this place to a complete standstill if you wanted to. And I also cannot stand jobs who are like, oh yeah, we work together, we're a family, and then they refuse to hire anybody to help you out, or at least cross-train literally anybody so that work can get done in a reasonable time frame. That just drives me crazy, and it only causes more people to quit on the spot. So you know what? Good for you for taking that team lead, as well as getting those Fridays off. And hopefully you can find a better job, because this place sounds like it absolutely sucks. An entitled old couple try to break into my house and look around after they see the for sale sign sitting on our front lawn. But even though I told them that I will call the police if they ever try that again, they claim that because I had a for sale sign on my yard, they had every right to go into our house and look around whenever they want. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened in early 2020, right before the pandemic shut everything down. I was still in high school at the time, walking back home from the bus stop one afternoon after school. I live with my grandparents, and they had decided to downsize and put their old house up for sale. So there was one of those for sale signs in the yard with a name and number for the realtor. I decide to walk up to the house, and then I see this elderly couple there. The man was trying to open the front door, while the woman was attempting to look through this bay window that we had overlooking the driveway. She was on her tiptoes trying to peek through the gap at the top of the window shade. So naturally, I went and asked them what they were doing. They said they were just looking at the house because it was for sale. Because apparently, I guess a home being for sale somehow entitles them to try and break in, even while there are still people living there. They asked me if I lived there, and started asking me all sorts of questions that I couldn't or even just didn't want to answer, such as the exact square footage of the house, as as well as where my bedroom was, before asking how to get into the backyard. And they seemed awfully confused when I asked them to leave. It was like they thought they had a right to be there, as if I had not just watched them try to break in. Later that week, they came back, but this time I was already home. My bedroom window overlooked the street in front of the house, and I was on my bed doing something, and I looked up to see the same old couple staring at me through my window. They then smiled at me when I looked up, almost like they were waiting for it or something like that. I had no idea how long it had been there, but it was really creepy. I again asked them what they were doing, and I asked them to leave again, but they instead declared that they were just looking at the house, that the house was for sale, and that they wanted to look around. And if we didn't want people looking at the house, then we shouldn't have put up the for sale sign out front. Well, I then said I'm going to call the police if they don't leave. A few days later, my grandparents caught them trying to get into the backyard. The wife had found the latch on the other side and was reaching over the fence, undoing it so that she could walk right into the backyard. It usually had a padlock, but it wasn't at that moment because my grandparents were out there, so naturally they just got caught straight away. They once again used the same excuse of the house being for sale, so my grandparents told them that they should have contacted their realtor if they really were interested in seeing the house. They then began to play dumb and said that they didn't know who the realtor was when her name and phone number were on the for sale sign that they literally kept going on and on about. They also could have, I don't know, maybe knocked on the door instead of trying to let themselves in the front door or into the backyard. My grandparents told them that if they ever saw them again, they would call the police, and that my grandparents and the realtor would make sure that they never are allowed to see the inside of the house. Well, after that, we never saw them again. I guess they took my grandparents seriously when they said they're gonna call the cops. But honestly, what was their deal? I've never been in the market for a house, but last I heard, a house being for sale doesn't give you the right to just let yourself inside at any time, especially when the owner still lives there. My grandparents love critiquing houses that are for sale and regularly go to the open houses in our area, even though they're never planning on buying another home. I wonder if that couple was maybe the same, but just convinced themselves that they were entitled to let themselves into any building that was up for sale, regardless of whoever might be living there. But I'm really glad we never saw them again, because that experience was incredibly creepy. Yeah, that is not the way you go about trying to inspect a house you want to buy. The people in this story literally were still living there. Even just looking at the house and the clear activity all around them, they should be able to obviously come to the conclusion that yes, somebody lives there and that I need permission to go into the house. You can't just walk up and be like, oh yeah, your house is for sale. That means we can go in whenever we want, because that's an insane assumption and it's definitely not the way the things actually work. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my fiance's mom that she's clueless and needs to mind her own business when it comes to my family? Because the way she's talking right now has really upset me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 27-year-old male, and I'm engaged to a woman who we will call Sierra, and we're having trouble with her mom, who we will call May. I get along fine with Sierra's family for the most part, even May typically, but she has always been a little intrusive into my family life and wanting to know details that are really none of her business. I don't have a close family or a family at all, really. My mom was a train wreck of a person who destroyed her life when she was previously married by cheating and getting involved with some shady guys, which ended her marriage and caused tension with her 2 kids from her ex-husband. She ended up getting pregnant with me, and there were 3 guys who could have been the father, and none were happy with the situation that she made. When my father was confirmed, she chose another guy instead, and my father completely left the picture. My mom ended up losing custody of me when I was 3 or 4 because she wasn't taking care of me, she was letting her boyfriend mistreat me, and they were involved in criminal activities that she had a long history of by that point. Her other children's father was given sole custody of them, and he was asked by a social worker to take me as well. He initially said no, but then someone who I'm not sure who it was told him that his kids would hate me forever if he left me to the system. So he took me in and let me live with them until I turned 18 years old. But his kids didn't want me, and he made sure of it. So while I had a family in the sense that I grew up with other people in the same house, nobody actually wanted me there, and it was made very clear to me by my mother's own children that I wasn't their sibling, and they didn't hate their dad for not taking me because they just didn't want me. My father wasn't hostile to me exactly, but he was cold, and he made it very clear that I was not his kid. By the time I turned 17 years old, I was on my own because he realized his kids had never loved me, and I was dropped with the knowledge that nobody would come for him for leaving me at 17 when I was already working. anything. I have nothing to do with them or my mother or my father, or even the extended family. When it comes to Sierra, she's from a very complicated blended family. May appears to have a very defensive view of blended families, and being somewhat aware of my past, she has pressured me to reach out and invite my supposed family to my wedding, and to her, my family means the man who raised me and his kids. Sierra has told her that won't be happening, and we actually stopped seeing her for a period of time, all because of her insistence on bringing it up all the time. May finally decided to tell me that I owe her the whole story, and that she'll be able to help me make amends with my family because that's what's best for everybody. I told her she was so clueless if she thought things would work out that way, and I told her that she needs to mind her own business because I don't owe her my whole background. Sierra then kicked May out, but not before May told me that I had spoken to her harshly when all she said she was doing was trying to help. So am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? No, you're definitely not the jerk, because it not only sounds like this is a very sensitive and private issue, but also this is most definitely not May's business. She literally has no business getting involved in this. For starters, she is not entitled to your information about your life, but also, even if she did understand where you're coming from, she has no right to try and carry the burden of like making amends with your family, because what you described sounds awful. You literally had nobody growing up, and they literally just dropped you off on the curb when you're like, what, 18, 17 years old? That's an awful situation, and it probably still hurts even to this day. So no, you are definitely not the jerk for telling May to get lost. Her entitled attitude is completely unnecessary, and these kinds of intrusive questions are completely unacceptable. Did I overreact for quitting a job after I found out that my coworker makes more than me simply because she has kids? Because right now, as I look back on it, I worry that I might have made the wrong decision. Here's what happened. So this happened a few years ago in 2018, and I had just graduated high school. I was working part-time at a music store making $10 an hour. I had already been there for about a year, and they hired this new woman who I basically had to show how to do everything in the store, from scanning in music and instruments and accessories, all the way to showing her how the register worked. One day, I saw the new girl had left her pay stub on the counter, so I decided to take a look, and it was then that I saw she was getting paid $11.50 an hour, which is a whole $1.50 more than me. I decided to bring it up to my manager, and I asked him why she was being paid more when I had been there for over a year, and I spoke 2 languages, which by the way has brought in a lot more business. He told me that this is the way that it was because she has 2 kids, so she needs the money. And when he said that, I lost it. I was only 18 years old, but I knew I did not deserve to be treated like this, so I gave him my 2 weeks notice right then and there. Obviously, this was 6 years ago, but I still think about it from time to time, and I've had people side with me saying that it was wrong of them to do that to me, and I've also had people saying that she should have been paid more than me, all because of her kids, and I was only a teenager right out of high school. So did I overreact in this kind of scenario? Because right now, I don't know if I made the right choice. I'm right there with you. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that she was getting paid more than you, especially since you were clearly a high-value employee. You had brought in a lot more business because you spoke 2 languages, and you had worked there for a year. It's not like you were new and you didn't know what you were doing. You had a firm understanding of how that place worked, so much so that you were the one who taught this lady how to do the job in the first place, and then you're gonna find out that she gets paid more than you? It's like, no, that's not gonna happen. If I was in your shoes, I'd be upset as well. Just because someone has a family and kids should not determine if you get paid more than coworkers who have been at this job longer than you. Why withhold earnings from somebody who's so experienced, only to then hand that over to someone all because they have kids and a family? I find that completely unfair, and that is absolutely ridiculous to have that kind of standard at your business. And I mean that across the board. In my opinion, experience as well as your expertise should absolutely determine your hourly wage, and not some arbitrary factor about how many kids you have. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Leave a comment down below. Do you think the original poster was justified for quitting after finding out they're making less than a new coworker? Or does this new coworker deserve to make more money all because they have kids? Let us know down below. We would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for not staying out of my family's business and for ruining my dad's marriage all because of the things they were saying about my mom? Because right now, a lot of people are mad at me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 15-year-old female, and I'm in a weird situation, and I really would like some outside perspective because I'm kind of at a loss. I am my parents' only child, and I have a stepmom who we will call Eve. From what I was told, my dad and my stepmom were a couple first, but things didn't work out shortly after they had my siblings. And my dad eventually met and married my mom after she discovered that she was pregnant with me. My dad didn't marry Eve, and from what my aunts told me, she was really bitter about it and used my siblings as a weapon to punish my dad and mom. My mom tried her best, but after she found out that my dad and Eve were sleeping together, she just filed for divorce. During the marriage, my dad had an established business that grew, and because my mom was able to prove that she had done unpaid labor for my dad's business, my mom had some leverage within the divorce and agreed to relinquish a stake in the company for alimony, the house, and a car for herself while getting child support for me. For the next couple of years, my mom focused on me and going back to school, and that's because my dad convinced her to stop while she was taking a break from her studies to save up more money. She eventually graduated and tried looking for work, but nothing really interested her. My dad and stepmom, who had gotten married by then, were always angry with my mom for not getting a job so that they would pay less alimony, and they also tried to get 50-50 custody of me just so they could try and reduce child support payments, but I never liked living with my dad full-time because I was often made to babysit their younger children. Also, my older siblings never warmed up to me, and I simply didn't like the way that Eve and her family would talk about my mom. Eventually, my mom got certified for a job that she wanted and has been an independent contractor for years. Because of this, my mom submitted the paperwork to stop alimony payments, and since then, she's been living life. Last week, when I was with my mom, Eve, my sister, who we will call Zoe, and Eve's sister were in the living room saying very rude things about my mom. They called her a side piece, a gold digger, and said that my older sister had to take out loans because of the increase in alimony that my mom was awarded. I walked in and called Eve and Zoe liars, that my mom was never the side piece, and that my mom has been working for years, so there was no alimony. Now, when I did this, there was a big confrontation, and I ended up leaving, but I later sent Eve, Zoe, and one of Eve's sisters a link to my mom's professional social media page that listed the companies that she worked for. It turns out my dad never told his family that the alimony payment stopped, and instead of putting the extra money towards them, he's been keeping it for spending it elsewhere. It is crazy over there, and my dad and a few of his family members are saying that I'm wrong for meddling in grown folks' business. I just hated how they were talking and spreading lies about my mom, but maybe I went about it the wrong way. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because it sounds like your dad was literally throwing your mom under the bus just so he could keep money from your step family. Like, he literally just sat there and let them say all these horrible things, and then they're gonna tell you to mind their own business? Like, no, I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen. If someone was talking about my mom like that, I absolutely would have spoken up too. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. Their attitude and the way they were going about doing this was completely inappropriate, and I don't blame you for speaking up in the slightest. Am I the jerk for asking my niece to babysit my autistic son for free after I had to rush my cat to the hospital? Here's what happened. So to start things out, I'm a single dad to an 11-year-old son who is autistic. The way his autism presents is mainly through his personality. He's very smart, quiet, and prefers to get lost in the land of fire alarms and elevators. And he's genuinely a really good kid. I have quite a few friends who don't like being around kids, but they still adore him. I also have a 19-year-old niece who's staying with me for a few days to go to a concert. A couple days ago, my cat got sick with symptoms I have never seen before. Given that vets here are always booked a few weeks out, I had to take him to the emergency vet, and I told my niece to just stick around and watch my son while I run the cat down there. Well, she said that she's child-free, so she doesn't babysit. I told her it would just be a few hours, and that she knows my son well enough that he would, at the most, just ask for something to be warmed up for him. She then said to me, "Pay me and it's a deal." I told her that we could hash something out later because I had to get going. She then said, "Fine, you can go, but we will talk later." I then get back from the vet with a diagnosis, basically stating that my cat was allergic to my niece's perfumes, which she wears because it helps her feel closer to her bias. Well, my niece was pissed because she couldn't wear her perfume anymore, so she demanded $100 from me. But I told her no because, for starters, I wasn't making her throw it away, and secondly, she's staying here for free, and I'm already paying for her food and her transportation. It was also only 3 hours, which she would have spent on her phone anyways, and she even admitted that he just stayed in his room the whole time. She then accused me of guilt-tripping her, and she got my brother to buy her a hotel room because apparently I gaslit and manipulated her. My brother, of course, went off on me about how I ruined her trip, and he demanded that I compensate him for the hotel because he had to put everything on his credit card. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. You did nothing wrong in my opinion, and honestly, this whole scenario and how it turned out is essentially proof that your niece is spoiled rotten. Like, just look at the way your brother reacted. Instead of asking you about what happened, he instantly just got her a hotel room and said, I can't believe you would ruin her trip. For starters, you didn't ruin anything. And secondly, this niece is completely lying. Like seriously, you were allowing her to go into your home and be there so that she can go to a concert later on. And then she has the audacity to be like, wow, I'm upset. You need to give me $100. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? That is not happening. I think at most I would give her like, what, $20 for sitting there for 3 hours and doing nothing? And I'm sure the 11-year-old probably could have been fine by himself, no problem. But it's honestly so ridiculous that this 19-year-old niece couldn't be like, yeah, I'm gonna watch him for like 3 hours and that's totally fine. But instead, she wants to act all entitled and be like, wow, you're making this so inconvenient for me. Which in my opinion, that kind of reaction to this situation is just so uncalled for. So no, of course you're not the jerk, but also I would never let that niece stay over at my house ever again if I was in your shoes. Because clearly she's just gonna take advantage of your kindness and she is never gonna return the favor ever. And that, in my opinion, especially when you asked her to do something so minor, is completely inappropriate and so uncalled for. I found out that my best friend is cheating on his wife and now he is begging me not to say anything. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my best friend and I have been inseparable since we were 5 years old. We went to school together, did most of life's major milestones together, and I consider him my brother in all but blood. When his grandmother passed away while we were in high school, she even had me in her will, leaving me with a small trust to use for college. For as long as I can remember, his family has been mine and vice versa. We both got married in 2017, and our wives are very close and have been since we started dating. While I'm not as close with her as with my wife, I see his wife like my sister and I care about her the same way. 3 days ago, I was riding in my best friend's car when he asked me to put on some music. So I picked up his phone and I put in his code because we've known each other's passcodes for years. And while I was navigating Spotify, a text message came through from a contact named Pizza Place that said, "Are you coming over tonight?" I sat there stunned for a few seconds before turning over and asking who in the world Pizza Place was. Well, when I said that, he immediately started yelling at me for going through his messages before I told him exactly what happened. He pulled over into a parking lot and spent a few minutes yelling at each other until he finally came clean. Apparently, he's been hooking up with a coworker for about a month. He says that he still loves his wife and has no intentions of ever leaving her. He begged me not to tell his wife and that he's going to find a way to break it off with his other woman, but says that he's in too deep to just ghost her and doesn't know how to cut it off just yet. He says that he swears it will never happen again and that his mistake doesn't warrant his life and his marriage being ruined. After some back and forth, I reluctantly agreed to stay quiet. But later that day, I remembered something that might change my mind. He and his wife started the process of IVF a few months ago, and I haven't pressed for details, but she has used my wife as a support through the process, and I know that it's been very taxing on her. Ultimately, my dilemma is this. Is it right for me to keep this a secret, knowing that they are trying to bring a child into the world, and knowing that child could be born into a broken home if his wife finds out after she gets pregnant? I'm torn between the friend that I love like my brother and what I feel like would be the right thing to do. I know I'm not the one who was wronged here, but I feel so betrayed and angry. I feel like he's done something that's going to tear apart the small family the four of us have built together, as well as the bigger one that we planned on having one day. I know he's not a bad person, and up to this point, I'm pretty sure he's been a model husband. What should I do? Okay, maybe I'm heartless, but in my opinion, his wife absolutely deserves to know the truth. Like, this is seriously so messed up. Because what you would be doing by keeping this quiet is basically being complicit in this whole scenario. Like, in my opinion, staying silent is just not an option. Here they are trying to have a kid together, and this poor lady has no idea that her husband is a cheating dirtbag. Just imagine how she would feel if she finally does get pregnant, and then she finds out, oh wait, my husband's been cheating on me with a coworker. That would be devastating, because now she's pregnant with a guy who cheated on her. So if I was in this situation, I absolutely would tell the wife. Like, this is gonna suck either way, because if you stay quiet, then the wife is gonna be like, wait, you knew about this? But also, it sounds like your best friend is gonna turn his back on you if you do confess that he's a cheater. But in my opinion, I feel like the wife has every right to know. She deserves to see this guy for exactly what he is. And I personally just don't believe him when he's like, yeah, I'm trying to break this off, I'm gonna figure that out soon. Like, he's not gonna do any of that. If anything, he's probably freaking out because now somebody else knows about it. So hopefully this all goes over well, because this really is gonna suck no matter how you approach it. Because what your friend did is absolutely unacceptable. And in my opinion, his wife absolutely deserves to know the truth. An entitled lazy realtor demands that I find a home within 60 miles of where he lives, as he refuses to drive any further for me to find a home. But after trying to reason with this guy and find some kind of common ground, He simply refuses to help, demanding that I do exactly as he says. And after dealing with this guy's weird entitled attitude for long enough, I decided enough was enough. And as a result, I fired him from being my realtor and went in a different direction, causing this guy to miss out on thousands of dollars worth of commission money. Here's what happened. I found this realtor who was very annoying and very entitled, but he was also very organized and incredibly responsive, even if all the signs were pretty much printed out. So I decided to go with him to buy and sell. And then my friend, who was buying also, decided to go with him based on the positive things that I told her. Between selling my house, buying a new one, and my friend's new house sale, he would have made commission off a total of $1.5 million in sales. Now, I made it clear that I work remotely and I can live anywhere within a couple of hours any direction from where I currently live. After looking at 2 homes with him that didn't work, I sent him more listings that I wanted to check out. The 2 homes viewed were both 10 minutes and 45 minutes away from his house. He repeatedly mentioned how glad he was that the house was close to his, since that house was an extremely rare find and not your typical house that you would see. Well, these 3 listings that I wanted to look at were 1.5 hours away from his house and were all close to each other. He then tells me all arrogantly that he doesn't need the money from being a realtor. He said to us, "I'm retired and I just do this for fun, and I'm not gonna go more than 60 miles or minutes away from my house because then I'll have to drive out there at least 5 times just to make the sale." Now, granted, he lives 45 minutes away from my house already, so this was impossible as the area he lives in is for very rich people, which is way out of my price range. So I asked him if he was working with any other realtors in that area that could help me with those viewings, and he said to me, "No, I don't share sales." So I politely let him know that this isn't going to work out and said I will need to find a new realtor, which worked out because I had not signed any agreements with him to be exclusive. Well, he's now furious and repeatedly tells me that he can find me a house close to his house and that I don't need to live wherever I wanted to go. But I explained to him that that is not his choice, and I don't want to be restricted to where he lives for my new home. It was like he was playing the role of my dad instead of my realtor. He then emails me another 4 long emails, doubling down each time about how I only need to live where he's decided that I should live for the sole sake of his driving time. He keeps mentioning how he showed me 2 houses already, and I just can't do this to him. He then tells my friend, "I think I made her mad. Tell her to respond to me right now," and then just repeats the whole thing to her, which was so unprofessional that she decided not to go with him either. And then to top it all off, he was talking garbage about me to the loan officer all before he finally went away, which is honestly for the best because I would rather take my money literally anywhere else. Yeah, that realtor is a complete moron. Imagine missing out on a sale all because you're too lazy to drive and take it. In fact, in the comment section of the post, somebody did the math and they figured out that this guy missed out on $45,000 worth of commission. Like, that guy's a complete idiot. Who in their right mind wouldn't take that at the drop of a hat? Especially when all you gotta do is drive what, maybe an hour away? That's easy money he could have gotten just by being reasonable. And it's also crazy to me that this guy was like, "No, you live where I say you can live. You can't go out of this 60-mile bubble or I'm not gonna help you." Like, seriously, what a psychopath. And I don't care if you're retired or not. $45,000 is still $45,000. There's so much you could do with that even while you're retired working as a realtor. So yeah, this guy completely lost a massive sale, and I don't blame you for walking away for a second, because this guy sounds like an absolute nightmare. And if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my father that he should try to be a better parent for my half-sibling, as he was not a very good one for me or my sister? Because right now he is making my life miserable, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my father was not a great parent to me or my sister. He never showed up for any of our school plays or any of our games. He never took the time to just spend with us, either as a family or just as a father with his son and daughter. 3 years ago, we found out my father had an affair, and he had a kid who was 3 years old at the time. My mom ended their marriage, and my father moved in with the affair partner and ended up marrying her once the divorce from my mom was finalized. So my sister and I were already done with our relationship. She had to spend custody time with him for a year and was around his wife before she was his wife and his other daughter in that time, but then she ended all contact when the courts gave her permission. I needed to go to him for custody until last year when the courts let me stop it, which is is eventually exactly what I did. His daughter was really confused by it all, and she was told my sister and I were her siblings, but we did not make any effort to know her or be in her life. My father and her mother pumped her full of hope that we would be close, but my sister and I want no relationship. Now, my father's wife brings her daughter to my football games, and she has shown up to dance competitions I take part in too. Her daughter gets excited to see me, but I never want to see her at them. I try to be nice, but I would rather not talk to her at all. My father showed up once or twice as well, and when I ignore them, I see how much it hurts the kid. She saw my sister last month when I had a dance thing going on, and my sister refused to look over their way and actually left as soon as she could. I could see my father's daughter crying, and yes, I know she's technically my half-sister, but I have no love for her. I have no interest in being her brother, and I have no wish to have a family life with her. Now, I don't blame her, I blame my dad, but she also means nothing to me, so I call her my father's daughter instead. Now, my father knows all of this, and after the dance thing last month, I reached out to him for the first time in a year, and I told him that he should try to be a better dad to her and to stop letting these games be played. I told him we will never want her, and he knows that, so he should protect her and focus on giving her a good life instead of putting us in positions to be jerks and ignore her or to make her more hopeful. He ranted and raved at me that we made him sound like a worse dad than he was to us, and he said my sister and I are no better because we have a responsibility to our younger sibling. But I quickly told him that we did not make her, we did not choose her, and we do not accept responsibility for her. But he made us, which made him responsible, and that's why he should do better. I had to end the call and block him because he went crazy down the phone at me. But he also saw me when he was out with friends, and he ranted at me some more and told me that I shouldn't have said what I did. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk. Your dad is a massive moron. For starters, I think it might be important to know that yes, he's doing this all on purpose. This guy's doing this almost in spite of you or to try and make you feel uncomfortable for cutting him out of your life. That's the only reason he's hyping up this daughter, just so he can turn this on you and be like, oh wow, look how awful your siblings are. I can't believe they would treat you like this. This is incredible. But like in reality, this is so unfair to you, it's not even funny. He has no right to treat you this way, in my opinion, and I think it's so disgusting that he would go about doing this, especially considering that your wishes are very much known by him. So no, you're not the jerk, and honestly, based on what you're describing, I can definitely see why you cut contact with him and why you don't want any kind of relationship with him moving forward. Am I the jerk for blaming my parents for the way that my sister reacted to their other daughter finding us? Because right now, everything is a massive mess, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my parents were always open with me and my 3 other siblings about the fact that they had another kid before us and gave them up for adoption. But our parents always said that they had a son that they had given up and that we had a brother given up for adoption, and that was something they were very clear on. Not only did they say that, but they also built up my sister as their only little girl that they had. They would make it a thing for her to be proud of. She was adored by the family, she was their special little girl and their one and only. She was our only sister, and we would all be a little extra protective of her as her older brothers. Well, 5 months ago, we found out they lied when their daughter tracked us down and said that she wanted to get to know us and be part of the family. Now, my parents were so excited. They were hardly able to contain themselves, but my sister freaked out and has refused to meet her. She brought up our parents' lies and said that she was never really as special as they claimed, and told them that she would never accept a sister and would never accept being made less special. Our parents acted so confused about her reaction, and they tried reassuring her and they encouraged her to meet their daughter, but it was all just a complete mess. My brothers and I have met this new sister, and I've only met her once, and I believe it's the same for my brothers, but I felt no instant connection to her, and it was just all kinds of awkward. She was really disappointed that she didn't get to meet all of us, and she came on very strong when we met her, which made the awkwardness much more awkward. I think she was expecting us to be more excited than we were, and a lot more into the idea of being a family with her. The fact my sister refused to even meet her was something that she mentioned 10 different times when she met with us, and apparently she still brings it up, which made my parents bring it up several times to me and to my brothers, I'm guessing. The other day, they were saying how upset they were that my sister refused to come to my mom's birthday party, all because they had invited our other sister. They were saying how they thought she'd handled it better and would be excited, but I told them that it was all their fault for lying our whole lives, and then hyping my sister up to be their only daughter. I told them that the way they did it probably made her feel like she lost their love when it was no longer the truth in her world. My parents parents then told me I shouldn't blame them. And they also accused me of putting my sister before them and their daughter, and how clear it is whose side I'm on based on the lack of warmth to their daughter. They also said it was unfair to blame them for the actions of an adult. So honestly, am I at fault in this situation? Because at this point, I'm seriously frustrated and I just don't know what to do. No, you're definitely not at fault. The parents literally lied to you and your sister your entire life. They built her up onto this pedestal of being like, oh, you're our precious little daughter. You're the only one around. We love you so much. But then they're like, oops, we lied. Here's your other sister. I hope you enjoy. Like, that is an awful thing to do to anybody, let alone to your daughter who you literally built up to be this special person in the family. So no, you're not the jerk. You're not the one that spread this lie for what, 22 years? And you're definitely not the one who brought this into the family and expected everybody to welcome this other person with open arms. Because I know if I was in the shoes of you or your sister, I would be absolutely furious with my parents. Would I be the jerk if I didn't let my mother-in-law come to my daughter's birthday party after all the drama she's put me and my husband through? Because right now, I'm seriously considering not allowing her to show up, but at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, for a bit of background, last year in the month of May, we all got into an argument over our dog chewing on a table that was given to us by my in-laws, and that spiraled into this massive drama. I made the comment to them that they never cared about my feelings, and then I gave them examples. And one of those examples started in Christmas of 2021. I wanted it to just be my husband, myself, and our daughter. My husband was deployed the year before, so it would have been our first Christmas together as a family of 3, and my dad had just passed away. But despite this, my mother-in-law made it out to everybody that they were not welcome just because they couldn't be here on Christmas Day because they live 7 hours away. And I wanted it to just be the 3 of us, but they stayed a whole week before Christmas, but it wasn't on Christmas Day. So apparently to her, she just wasn't welcome. My mother-in-law yelled at me and said, "My son was gone for a year and my dad died in 2019. I just quietly responded by saying, well, my dad died too. She said to me, yeah, but mine was my life. And for literally a year, I was told that I took that the wrong way. Fast forward to this year in April, they came down because my father-in-law's mother was not doing good. And we all got into another big fight for not wanting our 2-year-old to sleep in a hotel bed with them. My mother-in-law then called my husband for days, just completely bashing me. She would say, I know in your wife's heart of hearts that she never wanted us to have a relationship with my grandchild. And when she has another baby, she'll just keep that one from us as well. She would also tell my husband that I was the reason he never went to see his grandma in the nursing home, as well as telling him how inconsiderate I was for not telling my father-in-law that I was sorry for his loss. The first day that I actually got to see them and spend time with them was the day after my father-in-law's mom passed away. I didn't know how to go up to him, and we were out most of the day, and I didn't want to upset him in public and talk about it because nobody was bringing it up. I made them cookies to try and lighten up the mood, and I brought him an angel, and that was my way of saying that I was sorry for what he was going through. As soon as they walked into our house, they were upset that the puppy had gone to the bathroom on the floor, and that there were dishes in the sink, and that because of that, they apparently didn't feel welcome, so they wanted to go to a hotel. And they wanted to do that while also bringing our 2-year-old daughter, but we said no, and that's where the fighting began. And as soon as we got back home, that's when she kept calling my husband just to bash me. Now, when it comes to being my fault supposedly that my husband never went to see his grandma, I always went with him when he asked me to. It was really hard for him because she does have dementia, and she would always beg for him to get out of there. So to place the blame on me was so uncalled for. One of the last times she called to bash me that my husband was trying to defend me on was what she said about a year ago about my dad. She said, I was just explaining why I needed Christmas with my son and his daughter. And when my husband tried to defend me on that comment, she said, well, I actually had a relationship with mine. And she said this in a snarky tone. And you know what? That did it for me. I was tired of the gaslighting. I was tired of her making up lies and excuses and bashing me over a disagreement with my daughter and disrespecting me and my feelings about losing my dad. She's always the victim, and I don't want to fuel that by allowing her to be around my daughter after how she's treated not only me, but my husband as well. And he still does not talk to her either. She still has yet to apologize, and she still is making excuses and blaming me for all these things, which, by the way, had nothing to do with what we got into a fight about in the first place. And she's always changing up why she's hurt by what we did to her and can never give us a real reason on how it's our fault. She is just trying to play the victim, and I just can't stand it any longer. As for my husband and his dad, they have made up, and actually his dad is divorcing his mom, and he is now wanting to move down here. So that's yet another reason why I don't know if she would be allowed allowed at my daughter's party in August. I only get 1/3 birthday party for my daughter, and I honestly don't want the drama. So should I invite my mother-in-law to this party? What should I do? Okay, this is such an easy one, it's not even funny. Absolutely not. Do not invite this lady for a second. Look at all the unnecessary drama that she has dragged you specifically into. She has tarnished your name, she's blamed you for stuff that is absolutely uncalled for, and she crossed a serious line in my opinion when she tried to say, oh, well, at least I actually had a relationship with my dad. Like, that is such a disgusting thing to say that I think we can all understand why the husband is divorcing this idiot. So no, do not invite her for a second. She is going to ruin that party if she shows up, and your daughter definitely does not deserve that. My spoiled, rotten cousin refuses to be quiet at early hours of the morning, going as far as keeping me up until 4 in the morning sometimes, while refusing to listen to me in the slightest. And now, as a result, my aunt is incredibly angry with me, saying that I'm turning her daughter into a pushover, and that she should be allowed to do whatever she wants. Here's what happened. I'm a 22-year-old female, and I'm currently in grad school, and I come home during the breaks. I am on my summer break, and I live with my grandparents whom I've lived with my entire life, with my cousins and my aunt also living with us. I'm currently working a corporate job while I'm home for the summer, and my cousins are off of school, and their mom, who is my aunt, is also not working. Now, I have to wake up every day at about 5 o'clock in the morning. My cousin, who's 12 years old, sleeps in the room next to mine, and from midnight, even as long as 4 in the morning, she is either blasting music in her room or talking on her phone with her friends very loudly. The whole week, I had gotten 3 hours of sleep because of her. I would ask them to please be quiet because I have to wake up really early in the morning, but she would just disregard me entirely. And this has happened almost every break that I am home for. The last day of the week, I had still only had about 3 or 4 hours of sleep every single night, and I had to wake up at 6:30 in the morning on that day. Now, on that night, I had listened to her be loud all the way until 3 in the morning. So I went into her room and I yelled at her to please shut up because I have to wake up in 3.5 hours, stating that I haven't slept this whole week because of her. And at this point, I was so over it. I just needed sleep. Sometimes when I ask her to please lower her volume, I'll hear her yell out, "Hey Siri, make the volume higher." At this point, her mom is now mad at my grandma and myself, and she has refused to talk to us for nearly a week, all because she says it's not fair her daughter has to be quiet and not be allowed to do what she wants to do because of me during her summer break. I mean, it's not like I'm asking her to be quiet at 10 o'clock p.m. I'm just asking her to be quiet from 12 o'clock until the morning. She then told me that I'm making her daughter be a pushover and that they now have to pacify my needs, which at the bare minimum is literally just me going to sleep and not being woken up at 3 in the morning. So should I talk to my aunt? Because it's honestly just so ridiculous that she's giving me and my grandma the silent treatment over her daughter being loud at 3 in the morning. What should I do? Okay, for starters, I don't think it would be unreasonable to go to the aunt and be like, listen, this is so uncalled for, and at least try to find some kind of middle ground in general, but it does sound like she's super entitled and she's not going to listen for a second. So if I was in your shoes, I would probably get some really petty revenge by returning the favor in full. If they want to wake you up at 3 in the morning, fantastic. Now they're going to get woken up at 5 in the morning, 2 hours after they went to bed. Like, if they really want to play this game, if I was in your shoes, I would happily play this game. I would buy the biggest speakers I could possibly get, and I would play that noise through the walls until they go crazy. And sure, maybe I sound petty, but in my opinion, if you're gonna mess with somebody's sleep schedule and you refuse to do the adult thing and fix the problem, then you're definitely gonna feel my wrath when I return that favor. So hopefully this goes well for you, and hopefully your aunt can see reason if you do decide to go the route that I described, because in my opinion, she absolutely deserves it. I no longer want to show up for my sister-in-law after she has flaked out on me so many times, because right now I am very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've known my sister-in-law for about 3 years. We don't hang out individually, so everything that she's flaked out on has been a group event or some kind of group activity. She has flaked and ghosted all of my wedding dress appointments. She's flaked out on all of my birthdays. She opted out of getting makeup done together for my wedding, and the list just goes on and on. I've always come to every party and celebration, and I've even met her family, including coming to her super last-minute bachelorette party, and I even flew out of the country in May for her wedding, but she has never shown up for anything that honored me or something that was initiated by me ever. Now, although we are different, we do get along and have things in common, and we have confided in each other before. The most recent thing that she flaked out on was a dinner cruise last month to celebrate my master's degree. Her husband couldn't make it, and he told me this very early on, but she was supposed to come. My mom paid for everybody's cruise tickets, but she bailed literally 2 hours before via text message, saying that she had a headache and asked to do something another time. Because of her history and the timing, I was upset, and it was honestly the last straw for me. My mother paid $100 per person, and I just hate consolation promises or consolation hangouts all because someone flaked out. Now, I was honest, but I was nice. I told her that my mom paid for her spot and that it made me sad that she had been unable to come to a lot of the things celebrating me and my fiance, and she didn't respond to me for 2 days due to her guilt and anxiety. Eventually, her husband basically told her that she needed to respond, since he too was pretty upset with her. Her reply was that she was truly sorry. She said to me, "It's not personal. It has everything to do with my anxiety, and I'm just struggling to get close to people." And it was so funny because she had no mention of her supposed headache, and she never even offered to reimburse my mom. I can understand struggling with closeness, but I don't think it's okay to be flaky. I mean, I was never proposing becoming best friends forever. She and her husband are relocating soon, as her husband got a job out of state, meaning that they will be visiting home at least 4 times a year. There's 2 goodbye parties coming up, one at their house and another laid-back one at our mother and father-in-law's house. But you know what? I just don't want to go to either of them. I want to give an excuse but still send a tiny gift. I'm kind of just wanting to draw boundaries and not keep giving efforts I'm not receiving back. What should I do? Okay, for starters, in my opinion, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with you not showing up to those goodbye parties. Like, why should you be expected to show up for her when she can't even show up the day of for a cruise that somebody else booked for her? Like, that fact alone is incredibly crazy to me, and there's literally just no good excuse. But also, I think in the future, it might be a good idea to just not invite her to anything anymore. Like, she clearly doesn't appreciate you or any of the efforts you put in for any kind of celebration, so maybe it's time to just stop inviting her altogether to really get the message across. Because the way she's acting and her attitude about this is completely wrong. And if I was in your shoes, I would also be incredibly upset. An entitled old Karen pretends like she's gonna rob me as I'm trying to change out the money for an ATM machine. And despite the fact that she tried to claim it was a joke, I decided to jump into action as I turned around and judo flipped her onto the ground as hard as I could, resulting in the cops getting called and this old entitled Karen trying to lie and say that I attacked her first. Here's what happened. Okay, so I had a buddy who used to work with an armored cash transportation service. If you don't know, there are various types of these services, but for the most part, they transport large sums of cash to and from banks and businesses. They generally are paid to safely and securely transfer funds, as well as carry a form of personal protection, if you know what I mean. Now, the obvious reasons for this are because their vehicles may be a high-value target, meaning that they take safety very seriously and have protocols for protecting each other. This service in particular did ATM refills, as in they would go to the ATMs, check their cash level, and refill if necessary. Now, for some very important context reasons, my friend is a very large guy. He's an amateur boxing and MMA type of guy, so he is perfect for this line of work. Basically, nobody wants to mess with him. One day, he's doing an ATM refill at a gas station, and he recalls this 70-year-old looking woman coming through the door out of his peripheral vision. So why would he think anything of it? He's busy stocking cash into the machine, and while he's finishing up, he feels a poke in his back, and an older, gruff woman's voice says,
"Give me all the cash in a bag. This is a stick-up."
My friend said he thought he felt time freeze. He had been trained on these things, but everything goes so quickly, with his adrenaline pumping so fast. He whips around fast, grabs the robber by the wrist to try and disarm them, and does a throw to bring this person to the ground. But only then does he realize in his shock that this was an old woman. She looked like any other sweet old grandma out there, and he had her wrist in his hand while she was on the floor, absolutely screaming. He let go immediately, she's screaming for the police to get called, and he takes a step back and tries to take in the whole situation. The woman is helped up, but she's holding her wrist, and she immediately says what was going on as if she was in the right.
"It was a joke. My God, can't you take a joke? I'm just an old woman. I couldn't rob you. I just wanted to wait to use the machine."
My friend said he was just collecting himself and felt his adrenaline coming down when he heard what she said, and immediately he felt his blood rising and the adrenaline pumping back up. He said to her, "Oh my God, are you serious? You cannot joke about that stuff. You absolute moron. I'm an armored truck employee. Are you kidding me?" Now, the cops were called, and the original call that sent them in was that an old woman had just been attacked in a gas station, so the police came in and were immediately looking for somebody who hurt a sweet old lady. No one had really seen what happened because everyone was doing their own thing, but this entitled Karen is just telling everyone now how she didn't do anything wrong and how she was brutally thrown to the ground by this huge brute. This entitled old Karen is now talking to the police, holding on to her wrist and head and crying while she talked to the police and they questioned my friend. At this point, my friend is absolutely losing it. He thinks he's gonna get framed hard for this, and the police are just telling him that from her side of the story, she was the one who got assaulted by him. He calmly tells them his side of the story, and while he's talking, he realizes that there's a security camera pointing directly at the ATM. He points to that and almost begs and pleads the cops to please check the cameras. Well, they watch the camera footage, and while it was in low quality and grainy, you see this entitled old Karen clearly pointing a finger right into his back, which is in the same fashion of an old school mock robbery style. Now, the cops were dumbfounded on why they thought someone would think that this was a joke. They go back inside to question her, and she brings up that it was just a joke. She says to them,
I'm just an old woman though, how on earth could I rob anyone? You would think that someone could handle a bit of humor. Must just be these newer generations being too soft.
My friend commented how she was just so blindly adamant that this was just a joke, and she was wrong for just a little bit of horseplay, as she called it. But he almost lost his mind when she heard her bring up the newer generation bit. An ambulance came and picked her up, and she had a sprained wrist and some bruising on her back, and she claimed she needed physical therapy, which my friend's company legitimately believes she probably needed, as she was in her 60s, and that throw to the ground was probably really rough. So right then and there, it ended up being no charges against my friend, nor did the entitled Karen get anything, though an investigation was launched into it. And I would probably assume that they wouldn't want to pursue charges against an old woman who was literally judo thrown onto the ground, which probably would be hard to make a convincing case to a jury of that. She did, however, attempt to sue the armored truck service for the injuries, and they were considering settling, but apparently the owner was so upset about the interaction that they decided to play it out in court. While I don't know all the details from that part, my friend did tell me that the case was dismissed and they didn't owe her a single dime. To this day, my friend said it was one of the scariest moments of his life because at first he thought he was going to get robbed, and then shortly after it was scary because he thought he was going to jail for attacking an elderly woman. He thinks about how it could have played out differently depending on the person loading the ATM, and that this entitled Karen should be counting her lucky stars that she is even still alive. Wow, that lady's an idiot, and in my opinion, she got exactly what she deserved. Who in their right mind would go up to an armored car and be like, oh, give me all your money, this is a robbery, and then somehow not expect them to respond with like violence of some kind? Like, that is seriously a dumb idea, and she absolutely deserved to get judo flipped in the way that she did. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled neighbor is parking her car in such a way where she is literally blocking my access to my unit, and despite talking to her several times to try and find some kind of middle ground, she simply refuses to move her car. And at this point, I'm considering having her car towed or going to other extreme measures just to try and get this lady off my back, because right now I'm very frustrated, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I live in a mother-in-law unit that's right across from another mother-in-law unit, and we're connected by a carport between us. The carport has her front door directly off of it, and my patio gate off of it, which leads to my front door. So this really is my only access to my unit at all. The unit access and the carport are off an alley along the side of the main house our units are built off of. This alley runs from our street to the block over, and it's a little passing way that other units for other houses can use for access. The first few weeks I was here, I noticed that she parks really crooked in the carport. My mother uses a cane, and when she visited, she struggled to get into my gate from the parking. During my lunch breaks, I would come home and do a chore or two just for 30 minutes and then leave. Now, I will park my car along her unit, leaving her carport driveway open to back out and reverse out of the alleyway. When I leave, I reverse out and join the main street. Now, my lease specifically states I can use the alleyway, and I've only been here for maybe about a month. Recently, she has been texting me to not block her in. Where I park though, there's literally 2 to 4 feet of space before her car is even in the way. I mean, I'm literally nowhere near it. I've explained my lunch breaks to her, but she just says, I'm always running late, so I can't ask you to move, so just stay away from there, period. But I seriously find this unreasonable. Your lack of preparation does not constitute an emergency on my part after all, but I explain my lunch breaks. It's not long, and my lease says that I can use the alley, but I will be mindful to stay out of her way. Fast forward to today, and I'm home maybe 10 minutes before I get a text message claiming that I'm blocking her in because she needs that spot that I'm in to back out, and I'm just in the way. Now at this point, I'm irritated. I walk out and I say that you have plenty of space to back out, so I don't understand what your issue is. She yells at me that there's not, and that she doesn't want to hit my car. I reply that there is enough space to back out of the alleyway. I continue to one-handed back my car out of the alley into the main road, and I decide to park on the curb. I watch her struggle to back out and then pull forward to leave. For reference, I drive a Honda CR-V, and she drives a small car. She's gone for the rest of the day, and when she comes home, she parks so diagonally, she left me maybe 1.5 feet of space to enter and exit my unit. And I'm seriously so irritated by this. My lease clearly states that I can use the alleyway, and I've told her this so many times. I also give her 4 feet of space so that she can reverse out of the alley. Just because she doesn't want to, or is just too stupid to figure it out, doesn't mean that she's trapped in there. With the way that she parked, I will be guaranteed to bump into her car and potentially scratch it up. I looked up regulations, and she's not allowed to impede access to my unit. I mean, what is the point of her acting like this? I just moved in here, and I don't talk to anyone. I just want to do some chores on my lunch breaks, just so I don't have to be exhausted after 9 hours and then do the chores. I don't know what else to do other than document, tell the landlord, and eventually have her car towed if I can't reach my unit. So would I be overreacting if I did any of this to my neighbor? Because right now I'm so frustrated that I just don't know what to do. Wow, your neighbor is super toxic. Also, they suck at driving, and that is not your problem. First and foremost, it's time to get petty and nasty with this lady. In my opinion, you need to set up some kind of camera system, or if you're not able to do that, I would start taking pictures of where you're parking, showing clearly how much space you're leaving her so that she can back out, as well as what she's doing in the carport itself. Like she's literally blocking the way so you can go home. This is across the board not okay, and for her to act like this is completely unreasonable. You just want to go home and do chores on your lunch break. And you know what? If I live closer to home, I would absolutely do the same on my lunch break too. And you have every right to. Your lease literally says, yes, you can use this alleyway, but she's sitting there trying to be like, just stay out of my way. Just don't even go near it, period. Like, this lady does not rule this alleyway, and she's only upset because you're probably the first person to fight back on what she's saying. She was probably so used to telling off the previous tenant that now she has somebody who's not gonna listen, and it now seems like she's almost doing this on purpose just to try and like get under your skin. That, in my opinion, is super toxic, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. And you know what? If the landlord doesn't do anything, and if the documentation doesn't prove how she's parking, as well as how much room you're giving her on the way out, then and only then at that point, I would definitely start towing her car. If she wants to play stupid games, then she can absolutely win stupid prizes. And her blocking your access to your own house, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. An entitled neighbor hates the fact that I told on him to the city code enforcement team, as I exposed him for having a fire hazard in his backyard that could cause a massive problem for everybody involved. And now, as a result, he's begun to say all these terrible things about me and has put my reputation on the line, where I had no choice but to fight back. Here's what happened. So I had an issue with the people renting the house next door. They were trying to tell me that I couldn't trim their tree that was hanging over their property line. I hired an arborist who received permission from their property management company, and he trimmed all the branches that were coming across the property line. He did check to see if the property management company wanted to pay half to trim the whole tree, but they declined. So the neighbors and I had the tree issue. And during that dust up, the husband actually told me that he doesn't care about our HOA rules. Now, when their backyard became a fire hazard, as it was filled with nearly 6-foot tall weeds that were dead in color, I ended up snitching to the city code enforcement, especially after one of my security camera installers saw their back lawn climbing a ladder to install one of my AI Pro cameras. The installer said something to me about the lawn and was like, what is going on? My friends on the internet and the Nextdoor application told me that as the 4th of July approaches in California, one rogue firework could set it all on fire, meaning that my house and my newly shared fence with them would go up in flames. And the neighbor behind them had purchased new shared fencing too. So you know what? I'm glad I snitched on them. The family was cited by the city, and the husband bangs on my door and rings the doorbell a week later. He's filming the interaction on his phone, probably just to protect himself. Now, I didn't answer my door because I never answer it, and I could hear him calling me a piece of garbage to the neighbor next door for reporting him via my doorbell camera. He tells the neighbor that I chopped down his tree and a few other things, with the neighbor telling him that he needs to be more careful and come and talk to him. Now, my buddy at the police department said not to engage with this guy, but around 2 weeks later, I see the husband outside on video camera trying to grab his trash can and dart into the house. I tried yelling at him last week, but he acted like he didn't hear me. I then run outside and I tell him to please knock on my door now. I was wrapping up my hands and I told him that you were talking trash earlier, so please just try and hit the repeat button. I yelled at him from my property to never knock on my door ever again, and that if he does, he is going to mess around and find out very quickly. And as I was returning to my garage, this guy called me a hillbilly. He filmed the whole interaction, and so did my security cameras, and I made sure not to threaten him or get in his face. I remained on my property just so I could send him a message. The neighbor waits to go inside, and then he walks along the sidewalk in front of my house to talk with the neighbor he had called me a piece of garbage to a few weeks earlier. It's then that I hear him discussing potentially talking to a lawyer. The neighbor then said that I had my gloves waiting for him, so they suggested that they avoid me and stay inside their fence. Now, I grew up in Gary, Indiana, which is right next door to Chicago. I got into a lot of fights growing up because that was life until we moved to a military base in Texas. And I learned that I didn't need to fight anymore, despite being in the Air Force for 22 years and serving and retiring. But regardless, that side of me from Gary still exists. And that's despite the fact that I never raised a fist to anybody in the military. The level of disrespect by this neighbor was unbearable in our beautiful HOA. But on the bright side, they will be forced to move out in 2 months, which all comes down to the fact that they can't afford the rent or the utilities. And in my opinion, I seriously cannot wait for them to finally leave. It is so funny to me that this entitled neighbor has the audacity to try and talk garbage about you behind your back, but the second you're like, oh, come on, let's hit the reset button, say that again to my face, they go running back to their property line and are like, oh yeah, you're just a hillbilly. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? This guy's backyard is a literal fire hazard. And from the sounds of it, living in California is like the one place you don't want to have that, because the original poster is right. That could have gone up in flames and really ruined a lot of personal property. So seriously, good for you for putting this guy in his place, because in my opinion, he absolutely had it coming. An entitled old jerk says that he's going to destroy me on social media, all because his offer on a house wasn't accepted. And despite the fact that I tried to discuss his options on getting things taken care of, this entitled jerk was refusing to hear me out, claiming instead that he was going to ruin my life. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, I'm a real estate agent, and one day I received a lead from someone out of state who wanted to relocate to my city. We did a Zoom meeting, and he and his wife seemed very nice. After our meeting, he asked me to book 8 to 10 homes, as he was planning on coming out here in the next week. Now, this was fine, as I had plenty of availability for his visit. Well, this entitled jerk shows up with his buddy at a home just outside of town. My first clue that he was going to be a problem was when he and his buddy refused to wear masks to the seller's home. This was back in 2021, so COVID was still a big deal, and sellers did not want people in their homes without a mask on. The entitled jerk's friend says to me, oh, I don't need no mask because I'm retired. But I did not glorify that stupid statement with a response. They were also annoyed about taking their shoes off in the house, and this annoying friend eventually goes and just gets some plastic bags to put over their shoes. We are in the house for about 20 minutes when he decided that he didn't want to see anything else, even though I had already booked a bunch of houses and blocked off my day just for him. He then told me to write up the offer, which I thought that it was really stupid to fly all this way and make a decision without seeing the other homes. Anyways, I wrote the offer, but it was contingent on him selling his house in the other state. The sellers rejected the offer since he didn't even have his house ready to list or even sell. I called him after he had flown home, and I delivered the bad news and explained their reasoning. Well, immediately he got very angry and started telling me that this area was a piece of garbage with ugly homes. He claimed that I misled him about the area, as there had been a methanol plant proposed but canceled a few miles from the house. It was like he thought I was trying to sell him a house in some toxic hazard site, which really was far from the case. I let him vent for a few minutes as I kept my cool, and his wife then jumps in on the call and basically parroted everything that he said. Then they eventually hung up on me. He then calls back a few minutes later even angrier, and just keeps going on, and at some point I lost a bit of my cool and I decided to hang up on him. The very next day, he starts texting me demanding an apology, and that if I don't apologize, even though I had nothing to apologize for, he was going to destroy me on social media. He also kept saying to me, boy, you've done it this time, while also saying other awful remarks. I asked my managing broker to call him and deal with the situation. That phone call was pretty useless, and the guy kept calling and texting me. The managing broker then actually calls me, and he asked me, well, how could you have handled this better? And yes, as you can probably guess, the managing broker really sucked. I ended up blocking the guy, and his looming statement that he was going to destroy me on social media went literally nowhere. Last I checked, he moved to Texas, which was wonderful news to me and a blessing for my entire state. He also called the listing agent and screamed at her. Now, when I called him that night, I explained to him that he could submit the offer again in a few days if he could just hurry up and list his house. That's all the sellers want to see. This home purchase could have worked out if he had just gotten his house listed as soon as possible. But no, he had to act like an entitled jerk with a behavior that I'd expect to see from a child and not something that I would ever see from a 60-year-old man. Wow, that guy's a massive jerk. He literally was going to be like, oh, I'm going to destroy you on social media. But it's like, wait a second, I didn't do anything. You're literally trying to get me canceled and get me in trouble for something that you didn't do. Because from the sounds of it, if they literally just like, I don't know, listed their house when they were supposed to, all of this could have been avoided altogether. It literally could have been taken care of right then and there, but this guy wanted to be stubborn and be some massive jerk. So good for the original poster for standing their ground and refusing to take this sitting down, because this entitled jerk absolutely deserved to be put in their place. An entitled Karen demands that I turn down a full scholarship to Yale simply because she thinks that I'm going to be indoctrinated in some kind of way. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, I'm an 18-year-old male, and I got very lucky as I was accepted to Yale with a full scholarship for undergrad, which is where I'll be going in the fall. I also work part-time as a cashier at my local Publix, which is a popular supermarket in the South. I've had my fair share of interesting people come through my line, but this was the most interesting encounter I've had in a while. It was late in the evening, and this entitled Karen comes through my line, being as polite as she possibly could be at first. And she was polite all the way up until she noticed my apron. For reference, cashiers at Publix have to wear aprons, so I had affixed to mine the letter Y on my apron to show some of my school pride. My store is also right near a college, so the students who attend that college will wear pins to show their school pride, hence why I wore a Yale pin. The lady notices the pin as I'm ringing her up and asks me what it's for, and if that's for some trade school or some community college. But it's then that I tell her that I'll be going to Yale in the fall for a full scholarship. Immediately, her demeanor changes, and she loudly proclaims that I made a terrible choice and that I'm going to be indoctrinated. But indoctrinated into what? Like seriously, who knows what she's talking about? She also proclaimed that she is part of the greatest generation because she was not indoctrinated. After I gave her the receipt, she ended with a stern warning not to get involved with any satanic rituals and that she was looking out for me, a random cashier that she just met. But needless to say, I will be respectfully declining to heed her advice. And funny enough, that was the third person to say something along those lines that I literally should turn down going to Yale or else I was going to be indoctrinated. And I'm honestly just so done with entitled jerks who act this way. Wow, imagine getting into like a really prestigious college only to then have a bunch of jerks be like, no, don't do it, you're gonna get indoctrinated. And then they don't even like try to explain to you what in the world that means. Like that is literally the most useless thing anyone could possibly say to you because they're just gonna walk up and be like, oh, you're gonna be indoctrinated. Okay, gotta go, see you later. Instead of like explaining their opinion and being like, this is why. But even then, I guarantee you they didn't have any good reasons behind it. So yeah, that entitled Karen was completely out of line because I'm sure that your experience at Yale is gonna be fantastic. My entitled neighbor is scaring off buyers who are trying to buy my condo, constantly making snide remarks, as well as potentially racist ones to anybody that she doesn't like. Things are so bad that I'm now considering going through legal action just to try and get this lady to leave me alone so that I can finally sell this condo. Because right now I am completely at a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 40-year-old female and I'm selling a condo I own in a different state from where I currently live. It was a rental unit for the past year, but I lived there for 3 years prior. My neighbor, we will call her Mary for the sake of the story, has lived in the complex for over 20 years and owns 2 other units in the building that she rents out. I moved in at the beginning of the pandemic and immediately noticed her in the common areas, always wearing a mask and keeping a distance, and I thought that this was great at first. Well, time goes on and we have more interactions, and I learned that she doesn't believe in service animals. For reference, I have a dog who is certified, and I provided that to the HOA upon purchase of the unit, as our HOA doesn't allow dogs, which is a different issue that you definitely do not want to get me started on. And here's the thing, the HOA has no problems, but Mary apparently does, and makes it clear when she sees me and my dog that she doesn't believe that he should be allowed to live there. I told her to take it up with the HOA or the state disability office if she has any questions. Over the years, she kept her distance, but our passing conversations allowed me to determine that she was an anti-vaxxer and she had some really weird political opinions. She never stopped wearing her mask, and she liked to point out to me that she was still wearing it so people like me wouldn't be scared because she wasn't vaccinated. Now, I was vaccinated by that point, and I told her thanks, but I believed in science, and I was vaccinated, so even if she did have it, I would be fine. This, of course, set her off rumbling down the walkway, muttering stuff under her breath. off. The year that my tenant lived there was very uneventful, and I never heard from my tenant or Mary. So I list my condo in April, and I get an all-cash offer in May, so I start the escrow process. About a week into escrow, I get a call from my realtor that the buyers are canceling because of an interaction they had with Mary while they were at the condo during the inspection. According to the buyer's agent, Mary approached them and told them that there were plumbing issues in the building, but then said not to worry because she knew the building and everything was fine. Now, there have been plumbing issues in the past that the buyers were aware of and were included in the disclosures. My realtor also said that there was a comment she made about the buyers being Asian, so my fear is that she also made some comment to them that was racist in some kind of way, and that is the actual reason for them canceling. Yesterday, I had a contractor there doing some repairs, and my realtor called and said that Mary was following him around outside, grilling him about what he was doing and why. And now I have an extra 1.5 hours that he's charging me because of her interruptions. I've reported her to the HOA, but they are completely worthless, and they just take her side because she's been an owner for so long. I'm considering some type of legal action next, but I don't really know where to even start. So I'm overall incredibly frustrated, and I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, that really sucks, and I'm so sorry that you're dealing with that. I can't stand neighbors who act this way, and I can only imagine how frustrating it is when you have a neighbor who's acting like a complete weirdo while you're literally just trying to sell off your property. Like, that is so unfair and just completely obnoxious. So truly, I hope this all gets worked out for you and you're able to sell this property, despite the fact that Mary's acting incredibly entitled. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for wanting to report my coworker to HR after they threw a temper tantrum and stormed out of our store, literally right in the middle of our rush hour? Because right now I am so sick of their behavior, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been working retail since 2020, and it's been a pretty stable job as I've been with a store that I've worked at for almost 4 years now. Just last year, we've had someone else join the crew that I will call Perry, and they have some pretty serious problems. They have a history of locking themselves in the bathroom, and they stay there for 45 minutes. And sometimes they will just have a conniption fit and walk off before they can even finish their shift. We have tried getting this person reported to the higher-ups several times before, but it's all to no avail. Every time this happened, HR would talk to them and Perry would play the victim card, make up some excuse for their behavior that had nothing to do with what actually happened, and then they would also say they're going to get the union involved on the basis of discrimination against them. However, the incident that took place today may have been the straw that breaks the camel's back. Every Friday, we've been doing these special promotions that would get customers extra fuel points on their orders that they would use to take money off the next time they got gas at the store's fuel pump across the parking lot. Now, Fridays are always the busiest days for our stores besides Sundays, and it's an all-hands-on-deck day as we usually have 18 to 20 orders every single hour. We've had 2 people call in sick, and it's me and my manager running out the orders alongside Perry, who had only just gotten there 2 hours ago. The notification board that lets us know when customers arrive was going off like crazy, and it was completely full. Perry took notice of this and asked my manager, who we will call Tyler for the sake of the story, if it was going to be like this all day. Tyler then told them that yes, it's probably going to be like this until 6:00 p.m. Now, at this moment, I nodded in agreement because I've pretty much gotten used to the exhausting workload and the rapid arrivals of customers at this point. But after Tyler answered, Perry immediately began to pitch a fit and threw their uniform to the ground, and the customer's order that they were about to run outside followed shortly after. They were screaming that this was way too much work for them and that they didn't get paid enough for this garbage. Tyler and I were just standing there in complete and utter shock as they had another tantrum and ran away to avoid their responsibilities. Now, this is where I feel like I would be the jerk. I'm not exactly close with Perry, but we do talk while we work and have a pretty good working relationship. However, after I saw that, I just can't defend their behavior or even come up with a rational explanation for what happened. I feel I need to report this to HR, and my report would be totally anonymous because of company policy, but I still worry that Perry would find out because then I would be another one of their coworkers who reported them, and it would have a very disastrous domino effect. Like if they wanted to sue the company on the basis of discrimination, everyone who witnessed their tantrum would be named in it. At the same time, I feel like I need to do the right thing and report them in the hopes that we would be removing a bad worker who has a history of meltdowns just like this, who disrupts disrupt the workflow and make our department look bad. So would I be the jerk for wanting to report them? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. You have no idea how badly I want to be in your shoes, because I would love nothing more than to not only report Perry, but also hope that Perry finds out that yes, it was me. Because you know what you're describing is completely unacceptable. Anyone, and I mean anybody who's gonna storm off and be like, this is too much work, as well as destroying a customer's food on the way out the door from their screaming fit, that person should not be working in the job that they're currently at. And based on Perry's clear history of being a complete spoiled brat, they need to either be fired or they need to quit, because this is not good for anybody who has to work with them. And by the way, Perry's only bringing up the union and saying, ooh, I'm gonna sue for discrimination, simply because they don't want to get fired. They literally are just using that as some kind of out to keep their job and keep the paychecks coming in, despite the fact that Perry doesn't do their job. It is so incredibly unfair for you and your manager to sit there dealing with all these customers while Perry comes in 2 hours late and then runs off after they're like, wow, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too much work. So trust me, if I was in your shoes, I absolutely would happily report Perry. I would tell on them right away, and I would say everything that happened to the T. And if Perry doesn't like it, well then congratulations. They have now lost the trust of another coworker who literally just wants to do their job and get their paycheck, because your job does not include babysitting Perry's feelings. And if they really don't want to do the job that they signed up for, then they absolutely need to go. My girlfriend's sister is very indifferent towards me, and I'm convinced that she straight up just doesn't like me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my girlfriend and I have been together for a few years. I am a very talkative person that enjoys making friends and meeting new people, whereas my girlfriend is more of a homebody, and she is cool with her social standing of being silent and whatnot. I also have a lot of interests that I am passionate about, and I could talk about for hours if needed. Because of my girlfriend's past relationship, her and her sister have grown distant since my girlfriend's ex was a real piece of work and cussed her out and made her cry at some point during their time together. This individual was a horrible person, and I would like to be clear that I am in no way like that. While my girlfriend and I do argue from time to time, I do not come even close to doing what this scumbag did to her. As a result of this, ever since we started dating, her sister has always had some kind of issue with me. I get along better with the building superintendent than I do with her, if that's saying something. I have tried to show her kindness and getting her to open up to me more. My reasoning for this is because I know how much my girlfriend's family means to her, even when she tells me to brush it off and pay no mind to her sister, as they aren't that close and she's fine with it. I know in the past they were super close, and I know my girlfriend is probably just saying that to make me feel better. Her sister and I have spent some time together, but not a lot. I gifted her some things for her birthday, and I spent time at gatherings, and her sister at one of these gatherings, while I was talking about something, laughed with her friend and called me weird. My girlfriend then got mad at me for running my mouth and embarrassing her, which she later took back as we were all inebriated after some drinks. Another time was when we all went out, and one of their cousins got a little bit too drunk, and me, being the worried person that I was, I tried to take care of her and even put my arm around her so she wouldn't fall over, as she was stumbling over her feet. Well, her sister looks at me and smacks my hand away from her and basically tells me to get lost. Now, I in no way intended to do anything other than make sure that they were okay, and I even explained myself the next day. I didn't need to though, as I was basically told that I did nothing wrong and got praised for buying everyone drinks. Ever since then though, it seems like they all just hate me. I don't know if her sister's been running her mouth, calling me weird or whatever, but her cousins have been getting colder, and now when I come over to my girlfriend's house, her sister is really cold. I even try to say hi and she just says nothing to me in return. It's really demoralizing for me because their perception matters, as I am dating my girlfriend and I want my girlfriend to be at peace and happy, and I in no way want to be a divider between her and her family, especially those within our age group, as I know how much they mean to her. I am worried that maybe her sister is influencing everyone and telling them that I am weird or something like that. I really want to just confront her and be like, what is your issue with me? But I know that that won't lead to anything. But I just hate being judged so much. So am I overreacting here? Should I say something or should I just let this go? What should I do? Okay, personally, I don't think you're overreacting because it really does sound like your girlfriend's sister just doesn't like you. But on that same note, it doesn't really seem like you've done anything wrong. Like seriously, you've gone out of your way to be kind to her and at least show her that you're nothing like your girlfriend's ex-boyfriend. You've never cussed her out and you would never make her cry. So it all just seems super petty and just completely unnecessary. And if anything, the story just kind of shows that yeah, sometimes people are just not gonna like you. It doesn't matter if you're the best person in the world and you do everything right, there's always always going to be someone who just doesn't like you, and that's honestly not your problem. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would not let this bother me in the slightest. You know for a fact you've done nothing wrong to your girlfriend's sister, and if she seriously just doesn't like you or has some kind of indifference towards you, then in my opinion, I think you should just let her feel the way that she feels and move on by continuing to care about your girlfriend. Because at the end of the day, that's the one thing that truly matters. Would I be the jerk if I skipped out on my brother's wedding after he and his fiance scheduled their wedding on the exact same day as my wedding? Because right now, my extended family is calling me inconsiderate for not rescheduling my wedding, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I've been with my fiance for 4 years. About 6 months ago, I proposed to her, and we started planning our wedding. Our families were very happy, since we've been family friends since childhood, and they thought that we were perfect for each other. My fiance and I both have younger siblings with autism, and it's even something that we bonded over. She has a 22-year-old sister, and I have a 23-year-old brother. They both understand each other well, and have always been friends, and a while after we started dating, they did as well. Our families were happy that they had started dating because they understand each other. Fast forward to today, where they had planned a dinner for both of our families and said that they had a special announcement. It turns out they want to get married on the exact same day as our wedding. My fiance then asked what they meant by that, and the two of them got extremely angry. My brother said that it wasn't a big deal and that my fiance and I could just have our wedding on a different date, but we said that we've already spent about $50,000 on this and we couldn't just reschedule it just because they wanted us to. Our families then started saying that we were wrong and that they deserve to be happy as well. My fiance said that she knows that, but why do they have to do this on the same day as us? They insisted that that is the way that it had to be done. My mother suggested that we could still attend both weddings if they were done at different times, but my brother and fiance's sister said they wanted it to be their special day and that they would not share it with us. My fiance then said that if they were doing that, then we would just not attend the wedding. Our families then started to argue with us and said that we were jerks if we did that and that we had to be more considerate because of their autism. Well, my fiance and I were tired of it and we stormed out, and we got several messages from several family members calling us jerks. My fiance and I now don't even know what to do. I mean, should we still have our wedding with just our friends? Should we attend their wedding and just forgive them? What should we do? Okay, this is entirely crazy and there is no good excuse for this. For starters, anyone trying to be like, oh yeah, you gotta be more considerate because of their autism. I'm sorry, but that has nothing to do with this. They're being selfish and incredibly inconsiderate, and them having autism has nothing to do with this situation in the slightest. That is a massive cop-out, and it's your family's way of basically absolving them of any responsibility. But if they really are that irresponsible, and they really can't find another day that they can get married besides the one day that you guys are getting married and spent $50,000 on it, then in my opinion, they are definitely not responsible enough to get married in the first place. Like, it is insane to me that those two would be like, this is our special day, and you need to reschedule it and come to our wedding instead of having your own. Like, I don't know about you, but if someone seriously said I needed to reschedule my wedding that I already spent $50,000 prepping for, I would in that moment lose my mind on them. And I would happily tell them that no, I'm not going to go to your wedding, and I really hope you don't come to mine because what you're doing is insane. So no, you are not the jerk for skipping out on their stupid wedding, and if I was in your shoes, I would still be having that wedding with just my friends. If that were me, I would be uninviting every single family member who took their side, because there is legitimately no rational argument to defend this, and anyone who is trying to defend it, in my opinion, is a massive snake, and that is not someone that I personally would ever want to associate with. I am constantly expected to help out in service, but I'm not getting paid properly for my help, making it so I'm practically working for free. And right now, I'm so frustrated by this that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm currently working in the cocktail bar in a pretty large restaurant. When I signed on, the manager explained to me that despite there being tables directly at the bar, we do not have our own tables at all. We are purely supposed to produce and maybe hand drinks over to the people sitting right at the bar. We do not have access to the point of sale system, we cannot take orders, and we cannot cash people out. And this is in exchange for us having no customer contact, as the tip out is not very large. Now, for reference, I don't work in the United States or Canada, but our tip out averages out to about 25% of our hourly rate. Servers make roughly the same hourly, but even the servers that just aren't doing a good job are easily at least doubling their hourly with tips alone. Now, fair enough, at least we don't have to deal with customers, except our front of house managers love sending waiters home early, only to then have us place people at tables, run run drinks and food ourselves, clean tables, roll silverware, and if it becomes really dire, take orders by memory and then pass them along to a waiter. And at this point, it's really starting to frustrate me. It seems like the schedule is set up to not overload the servers while still letting them rake in their money. But in contrast, we're scheduled as tightly as possible behind the bar and then still regularly expected to help out. What's worse is the tip out is capped out at a sales point that the larger sections hit pretty much every single day. So if other servers are sent home early, we help out for literally zero benefit because we don't even get the tip out anymore. I mean, I've had days where I've placed a table, took their drink orders at the same time, made their drinks and then ran them out, and then sent them a waiter to order food for them, only for me to run their food, take their dessert order, run the dessert itself, and then send a waiter out to pay for them. And out of all that work, I saw maybe about 20 cents of that based on the tip out alone, while the server maybe gets a $10 tip. Now, this is the extreme, to be frank, but it shouldn't be happening at all. I mainly took this job over others where I could have made a lot more money because it's the easiest stepping stone back into management. And I've already gotten promoted, and I'm slated to take over the bar entirely. But I'm literally halfway out the door again because of all of this garbage. What should I do? Yeah, if that were me, I would definitely be looking for another job because these people sound absolutely awful. They're literally just getting free labor out of you, and it sounds like they're doing this because you're not making a fuss over it. That's why they're sending servers home early, because they know that you and everybody who works at the cocktail bar are basically going to take care of all of this free of charge. Like, why would they keep servers around when they can have you working for free? So if you did want to stick around at that job, I really think that you need to start standing up for yourself because they are clearly taking advantage of you, and every day that you say nothing is just another day that they will continue to do it. My boyfriend told his friends something that I told him in private, and now I'm completely embarrassed and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So recently, my boyfriend and his good friend have been integrating a new guy friend into their circle. They hung out with him a small handful of times and eventually invited me out one night to meet him. Now, I didn't get a good first impression as the guy was really rude to me. He was not engaging in conversation with me. He was not looking at me or in my eye at all. And for the record, he was making eye contact with other people and looking at them. But it was only me that he wasn't doing that to. He was also answering questions aggressively when I tried to engage with him and generally acting as if I had already did something to annoy him. Afterwards, I told my boyfriend all of this and my opinion of him, which was that he didn't give me a good first impression and he was too aggressive with me, but maybe I just caught him on a weird night or something like that. Now, fast forward and he went out with the same group, including the new guy, and he did this a couple of weeks later. My boyfriend then revealed that he told his good friend what I said about the new guy, and his friend relayed the info to the new guy. He also said before I got there that the new guy switched seats so he wouldn't have to sit next to me and made a comment about not wanting to frustrate me. And at this point, I'm upset with my boyfriend for telling his friend what I said about the new guy. I feel as if it was a breach of confidence considering I told him this opinion in private. Now, I feel like they all think I'm some uptight girlfriend who gets frustrated easily and doesn't like anyone. But also just the feeling of them all talking about me and my opinion that I said to my own boyfriend in private just leaves me feeling super gross. My boyfriend was acting so nonchalant about it too, by the way, and I had to address the fact that he was so chill about all of it, and he isn't even sorry, nor has he even apologized to me. He then said sorry and later also said that he knew he was going to receive some kind of garbage over all of this. Now, eventually I let it go, but now I feel weird about it. I understand that friends talk to each other, so is this something that my boyfriend should have kept to himself, or was it normal to tell his friends what I said about the new guy? What should I do? Yeah, I can really understand where you're coming from, because this is something you told your boyfriend in private. You didn't want everybody and their mother to know about it. That really is a massive breach of trust, and I would feel the exact same way that you do. You obviously wanted that private, and he violated that privacy. So no, I don't think you're overreacting, because what your boyfriend did, in my opinion, is incredibly messed up. My boyfriend's narcissistic stepmom has completely stolen and confiscated every baby shower gift that was supposed to go to our unborn child, and now we are both at a loss and we seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I had only been dating about 2 months when we got the positive test. We have now been dating about 9 months, and he's made it clear that he never wanted kids and has been struggling with prenatal anxiety, but has made it clear that he would like to be involved in my baby's life. As two 20-something-year-olds and as first-time parents, these baby showers that we're gonna have will help us both financially to make things work the best we can. It's been a really hard pregnancy, and it's just getting more difficult to work full-time as I get further along. wrong. We had previously considered living together upon knowing the circumstances, but for financial and personal reasons, our daughter will be staying full-time with me at my parents' house, which ended up being our only option for the time being. My due date is August 1st, and his lease for his apartment with his current roommates ends on December 1st. It's also important to know that he has two sets of parents, a stepmom and a biological father that live together, and a biological mother and a stepdad. And there was a baby shower hosted on June 1st. My boyfriend's stepmom, let's call her Jay for the sake of the story, is married to his biological father. This baby shower was mostly for this side of the family, people like his aunts or uncles, his cousins, grandparents, and his great-grandparents. And from that baby shower, we received so many wonderful gifts, and it really was such a lovely experience. But something strange happened at the end of the shower. Jay and his biological mother started to move in a hurry by putting the gifts away in her closet. I was really confused when I saw this, and when me and my boyfriend had discussed what we were going to do with the gifts after the party, we both agreed that we would put as many gifts as possible in his car just to not make it weird for his relatives, and any bigger gifts would go in my parents' SUV. The whole thing just seemed really weird to me, and the people that were still there sat in silence as they shuffled all the gifts away. I felt so small and like I couldn't do anything. I was in his parents' house surrounded by his relatives. My boyfriend said he thought she was just moving them out of the way when I asked about it. And this seemed weird to me also. Why were the gifts just not brought to the cars? Jay came up to me when she was about halfway done putting the gifts away and told me, "Don't worry, I'm just putting the gifts away so I can make returns on the duplicates or even make exchanges and write thank yous on your behalf." And then she went back to quickly stashing away the gifts. Now, here's the thing. I received no duplicates at this shower except for 2 swings, but even then, why do I not get to pick which swing out of the 2? Now, this is where we both made a mistake. With us both being equally confused and tired from the festivities, we left with no gifts. And his family was acting in the same way that you would expect anyone would act towards a 22-year-old's baby shower. We get littered with comments such as, "Get ready for your life to end," or them saying, "Oh, say goodbye to your free time." It's pretty much the usual hassle that people receive from relatives regardless of your age, which made things so much worse, especially with his anxiety around being a first-time dad. I found out later that she had decided that she would keep the gifts at her house without talking to me or my boyfriend first. She chose to put them in her closet without even letting one of us know that's what she planned to do. I then got a text message from Jay about a week later telling me that she had gotten everything split up between us, and I just got more confused. Do they not know that she will be living with me full-time? Well, it turns out Jay didn't agree with our living situation and told my boyfriend that she was scared that I would just rush off with the gifts as well as keep his daughter away from him. His stepmom and dad wanted to make sure that he had something after trying time and time again to explain our situation to them, and that if we were to move out together, it would be in December or later. He works full-time, but he hasn't worked at his current job long enough to qualify for paternity leave, meaning that I will be with her full-time on my maternity leave, both night and day. And he wants to see her every time that he can, both after work and on the weekends. And right now, with our combined incomes, we just can't afford to move in together. When Jay had sent her son to drop off the baby shower gifts, I immediately noticed that there were 2 big-ticket items missing, a swing as well as a pack-and-play. I planned on returning one of the swings and buying a car seat or a crib, and both gifts were about $400. After noticing this, I got really suspicious. It made me question what else did she possibly take from us. Jay had her daughter make a detailed thank you list with every gift given, which I used as a checklist for every item given to me. But here's the thing, the stepmom had taken and withheld about 2/3 of the gifts. Every time he tries to speak with his family about this, and trust me, I would never say a word to them as they are his family, they gave him another excuse. They say something like, "We were scared her family was gonna run off with the gifts." But it's like, where am I gonna run off to? My family's house? You know, the same place she's gonna be staying full time? They also said to us, "We wanted to make sure that you had something. It just seems like she's running off with a bunch of free stuff and abandoning you." Or my personal favorite one where they said, "Why is your girlfriend being so materialistic? It is so obvious that she plans to leave." I've gone out of my way to build good relationships with his entire family, and it hurts to know that this is what they really think of me. I think the funniest part about all of it is the fact that he specifically said he didn't want anything from the showers baby-wise except for a car seat of some kind. It's like his family expects me to withhold the gifts from him, or like we aren't 2 adults that can make decisions for our own child. They're not just keeping the gifts from me, the girl their son knocked up, but they are actively breaking my trust as a mother of their unborn grandchild. Now, when it comes to the handful of items that were confiscated gifts, they include the following. She took the lactation pads, breast milk storage bags, and the newborn diapers, meaning that all of the ones that I received were completely taken from me. She also took the cards and return receipts, including the gift cards, the bottles, and the newborn onesies. She even took a breast pump from me because she was splitting things up between the two of us. I feel sick knowing that she kept literal diapers from us and items only I would ever use. Regardless of our living situation, Jay made me feel like every gift given to us was very conditional, like it had to be earned or begged for until she got her way. It felt like a toddler throwing a fit that things weren't exactly the way that she wanted them. I've thought through every possible reason why someone would do what she did. Is it because Jay's daughter just found out that she's pregnant? Is she keeping the gifts for her daughter specifically? Is it about the money when she is already so well off? Is it some kind of attempt to control the both of us? Or does she really think she's doing the right thing? On some level or another, I understand some random girl he knocked up won't have the same level of trust that her stepson has. But why does she get to choose what's the right thing for him to do? I understand it looks weird that she is living with me full time for the time being, but we literally have no other choice. It's not like his parents are offering him a spare bedroom. They don't want to make solutions to the living space. They just want to control it. I can't afford anything better. It makes me feel like a horrible person already, that I can't give my daughter a better life, and all their judgment just made me feel so much worse. I'm trying my best to make the circumstances work. I love my daughter and I want her to have everything she needs to the best of my ability. At the end of the day, I just don't understand that even if she was splitting things up between us, why were breast milk storage bags and lactation pads taken from me? Why did I not get to keep the nice onesies with the zippers or get to pick out which swing that I wanted? Why does Jay get to pick and choose what we each need for a child? Why don't I get to own the breast pump? I am going to be the one using it after all. This entire situation just made me feel so small. It feels like I can't do anything at all. I feel so frustrated, and I feel like this is the worst way to manipulate someone, by withholding non-conditional gifts from a literal unborn child. I have another baby shower coming up from his other side of the family, namely his biological mother and his stepdad, and knowing that his biological mom helped his stepmom bring the gifts into her closet and helped to withhold them from us, I'm just honestly so anxious over the whole scenario. If they really are trying to control both of our lives now and the lives of our unborn child, what about when my daughter is actually here? My entire pregnancy, they have told me horrible things, saying stuff like, you need to stop taking your parents' money and sign up for government daycare. Or they'd say to me, you're making it so much more difficult for each other by not moving in together. And also, of course, all the usual unwanted pregnancy advice and the comments about different things. Usually, the first thing people ask me is whether or not I'm planning on breastfeeding. I mean, even strangers are asking me this. And the random belly rubs from absolute strangers is even worse. Now, my boyfriend feels completely indifferent to the situation. On one hand, he understands why they did it and he isn't angry. But on the other hand, he realizes this is them being controlling towards us and is literally telling us exactly how they will be when she is here. Regardless if it's in his best interest, he shouldn't have decisions made on his behalf by his parents as a moved out adult, especially without even a heads up. I do have 3 more baby showers, one with the other side of his extended family, one with my side of the family, and one with my friends and coworkers. He tells me not to worry because I have 3 more showers to go, but what I keep trying to tell him is that I just can't rely on those people to buy everything that we need. What if we needed the extra money from returns to buy something super essential? I don't even have a crib, a car seat, a dresser, or a changing table topper. And now I don't even have diapers. I cannot possibly depend on 3 or more people to spend upwards of $100 reasonably. These might be the only big gifts we receive that we could return for something else that we need more. He's told me that growing up, they made him feel like he was just there and that he didn't have a good relationship with his stepmom for a long time over how controlling she was growing up. It makes me sad that she made a little kid feel like he wasn't as valued as her biological children. Even when he became older, she did this, like paying the full amount for her biological children to go on vacations or just to go to Disney, but if he wanted to go, it became conditional. He had to pay for the plane ticket if he wanted to go to California beaches, while her biological children got a full ride. I'm scared Jay is going to do this again to my daughter now that her biological family member is carrying a grandchild too. It is such a complicated situation and I'm so lost in what to do. Every answer makes me feel materialistic or selfish for wanting these gifts, but I wouldn't be able to afford them otherwise. Obviously, if he wanted to, the gifts from his family he is more than welcome to keep, but they were supposed to be for the both of us and for our unborn child. It feels like I'm going through a divorce trying to split our assets. Why did his family have to make it so weird for me? What should I do? Wow, this is a crazy circumstance to be stuck in. For starters, your boyfriend has no spine. Why on earth is he not making a bigger deal out of this? Why is he sitting there and being like, oh, it's okay, whatever. I can understand why they're doing it, so I'm not completely mad. Like, no, I would be furious. I would be kicking the door in from their house and being like, give me the gifts right now. I would tell them, you have until the end of the day to get me those gifts, or else I'm gonna call the police and start a report. Because what they're doing is literally stealing. They're stealing all the things that they gave you, and they're trying to be like, oh, we'll take care of it in the meantime. It's like, no, you're not. You're gonna give it to me, or else the police are gonna be involved. And sure, you know what? I can understand where you're coming from, where you're saying, okay, this is my boyfriend's family, it's not my family, so I don't really have a place to say anything or try to make a fuss about it. But if your boyfriend's not gonna do it, then in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be making a big deal out of this. You both are in a financially tight situation. You can't even live together at the moment because the lease on your apartments are just not lining up. So to have these baby showers as some kind of relief for the baby that is literally on the way, only for your boyfriend's mom and stepmom to literally step in and take things from you and your boyfriend, like that is absolutely unacceptable. And it's time for somebody to step up and say, no, you need to give us those gifts right now. They're not going to manage it for you. They're not going to handle any kind of thank you cards or anything like that. They're not going to return any duplicates because they have no right to do so. They're going to hand over everything that they're supposed to give you, and then they're going to walk away calmly and mind their own business. Because the comments about them basically implying that you're going to run off with all these gifts and abandon the boyfriend, or them even saying, oh yeah, you're just never going to let our son see his daughter. Like that, in my opinion, is a clear view into how these people really are. And I'm a firm believer that if someone shows you exactly how they are and exactly how they feel about you, then you should believe them. You should believe that they are telling the truth and that this is actually the way that they see you. Because seriously, this is all completely inappropriate. They cannot, under any circumstances, take these baby shower gifts from you and try to lord it over you as if they have a say on where it does and does not go. Because at the end of the day, that's between you and your boyfriend, and neither your stepmom or his biological mother has any right to take anything from you that's going to your baby. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to ask my partner if he'll drive my friend to work when I go on maternity leave? Because right now, my friend is acting super entitled and really trying to guilt trip me hard. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm currently 7 months pregnant, and I give my friend a ride to work. I've been doing this the last year because they lived 3 minutes away from me when I was in my old apartment, and I continue to do the favor when I moved in with my partner. I'm going on maternity leave next month, and my friend has no idea how she is going to get to and from work. She's been trying to figure it out since I found out I was pregnant, but she cannot drive. There are no driving schools nearby, and the closest one is 2 hours away, and they have no family to help them do it. I said I wish I could help more, but giving her rides while on maternity leave, but driving with a newborn at 6 in the morning just isn't happening. Well, today she suggested that I ask my partner if he would drive her, and I said no, I'm not asking. We have to be at work at 6:30, and my partner had to be at work at 7:30, and we live about 10 to 15 minutes away from my friend, and our job is 20 minutes away from his job, and I'm not making my partner wake up earlier than he normally does just to get ready for work and drive my friend to work, all because she can't find a ride. She then made a joke saying that he should do this because it's his fault that I have to go out of work because he got me pregnant, and as a friend, she would appreciate the favor. I said I wish we could help, but I'm just not asking him. Well, she is now upset with me because I won't even ask, but I already know that my partner will say yes because he has people-pleasing tendencies, so I'm just trying to make the decision for him. She then brought up how she would not have even taken the job that I helped her get if she knew that we would not be able to carpool anymore. She figured it out when I couldn't give her rides due to illness or appointments, but now I feel like she's just guilt-tripping me and keeps insisting that I just ask and refuses to drop this subject. So am I the jerk for refusing to involve my partner in this entire mess? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. I'm honestly kind of disgusted by your friend because they're seriously just trying to guilt trip you into doing exactly what they want. They don't care about you or your fiance or your baby. They don't care about anything going on in your life. They only care about getting a free ride to work, and they're willing to guilt trip you and disrupt your entire life just to get exactly what they want. And you just know that the only reason they're asking you to ask your partner is because they probably know that they're a people pleaser as well. So they're thinking to themselves, oh, I can get him to do this. He'll drive me to work and that'll solve all my problems. moms. Like seriously, this kind of arrangement is obnoxious, and I can understand carpooling for work, but at this point, there's such a weird sense of entitlement that it really makes me question if this friendship is even that deep in the first place. Like, are you guys actually friends? Or does she just see you as like a free ride of some kind? Because based on what you're describing, I'm willing to bet that it's the second one, and that honestly is so tragic. So no, you are definitely not the jerk for saying, no, I'm not gonna ask my partner to drive you to work. That really sounds obnoxious, and in my opinion, you should not be forced to drive this friend, especially with the fact that you're gonna have a baby very soon. An entitled old jerk refuses emergency medical service all because I was wearing a mask, and this was clearly an insult to his delicate sensibilities. But after trying and failing to talk to this man, as well as trying to convince him to let us help him with his medical emergency, he refused our help unless we took our mask off. And I'm honestly still blown away by this guy's weird behavior, and I hope I never deal with anyone like that ever again. Here's what happened. So I'm a firefighter and a paramedic for a small suburban department, and our particular community has a lot of retired elderly people, and many of whom begin to experience medical problems at an exponential rate as they get older. Last shift, we get a call to a home for difficult breathing, and most notably, as we pulled up, was a yard that had signs of their favorite political candidate, as well as an American flag flying upside down from a flagpole, and most ironically, a sign depicting bullet holes, boldly proclaiming that this house doesn't call 911. Our mere presence at that house proved that was in fact very false. I mean, I can't imagine how the Second Amendment didn't resolve his respiratory distress, and he had to resort to calling the exact number his sign states that he does in fact not call, but I digress. So you can imagine this person's politics and personality, which to some of these entitled old people seems to become one and the same. I happen to not share his views, but a patient is a patient, and I treat everyone courteously across the board unless they give me a reason not to. Ever since COVID-19, I've worn an N95 mask on every single medical call. Our department no longer requires us to do so, but I choose to because I like not getting sick, and I also like not bringing home patients' infectious illnesses to my wife and toddler, and I credit this with having not caught COVID once since it all started. Anyways, we entered the house and I called out fire department, which he answered by saying, "I'm in the back bedroom." I follow the voice to a bedroom where I find a 350-pound man literally sprawled out on his bed. He's audibly wheezing and coughing and looking pale and incredibly sweaty, and in EMS terms, we call this looking like garbage. So yeah, this dude needs some intervention. But before I even set my gear down and start my assessment, he says to me, "Get that effing thing off your face." Now, I definitely wasn't expecting that to be our initial reaction, so I asked him and I said, "Pardon?" He said to me, "You heard me. Take off that effing mask." So I think to myself, okay, cool. To this guy, it's more important to rage about personal protection equipment that I'm wearing than to tell me what he called for or to just let me treat him. I try to brush it off with an explanation about how this is what I wear for every medical call, but he raises his voice at me and he says to me, "Don't you effing touch me wearing that thing. Masks don't work. And the guy who said we should wear them is a traitor and needs to be punished." Now, trying to look past what he just said, I asked him if he wants help or not, at which point we reach the stage where he pretends not to be able to understand me because the mask allegedly muffles my voice. I have a deep voice, and I have been projecting it for hard of hearing old people my entire career. And it was also fairly telling that when I told him, "Sir, you can hear me just fine." And his response was to say, "No, I effing can't." Eventually, he demanded that someone else on my crew help him out because he was sick of my BS. So I said to him, "Okay, sir, you got it." I called my partner and my captain into the room and said that he would rather speak to them. So they enter the room, but surprise, surprise, they're wearing a mask as well because this house reeks of stale smoke and body odor, and this patient is constantly coughing. So he sees two new people also wearing a mask in his room, and then this guy absolutely goes into a rage. He's telling us to get out, that we're all useless, while also saying some of the worst slurs I've ever heard in my life. I asked him if he would be willing to sign a document called an Against Medical Advice, which releases us from liability when a patient refuses medical care. His answer was to say, "Screw that. I can't hear you with that stupid cloth on your face." So I think to myself, yeah, okay buddy, whatever you say. We then grabbed our gear and we filed out. His clearly long-suffering wife caught us at the door and begged us to go back in and take him to the hospital as he's been having so much trouble breathing lately. Now, he sure has, but he's also an adult, at least on paper, and he makes his own medical decisions, so legally our hands are tied. I felt a little bit bad for her until she said something to me that honestly blew my mind. She said, "You don't need to wear a mask anyways. Just take it off for his sake so he'll let you help him." My answer to her was, "Sorry ma'am, my body, my choice. Call us back when he goes unconscious or stops breathing. Well, sure enough, she called back at 4 in the morning and he was knocking on death's door. But this time, he was too messed up to even know that we were in the room, and I ended up having to intubate him and breathe for him mechanically on the way to the hospital. Last I heard, he's going to make it, but I sincerely doubt any lessons were learned along the way. Wow, this guy's an idiot. Like seriously, who in their right mind would be like, ooh, I'm having trouble breathing, but I can't possibly get this help if you don't take off that mask? Like if I'm actually having a medical emergency, I don't care if the ambulance is wearing a clown costume. I absolutely want them to come in and try and help me out. So honestly, the way this guy acted was incredibly inappropriate, and I don't blame the original poster for walking away and teaching this guy a valuable lesson. My entitled father, in a fit of rage, canceled all of our hotel reservations at the last minute after most of the family came into town for my aunt's wedding, while also expecting all of us to sleep on the floor, despite never providing blankets, mattresses, or sleeping bags of any kind. And I'm honestly so blown away by my father's entitlement that I have now decided that I will never trust my father with anything ever again. Here's what happened. Okay, so this was only a few years ago, but this is literally the most jerk thing that my entitled father has ever done. So my aunt, my father's younger sister, was getting married a few years ago. She lives in a major metro area and was getting married downtown. My father generously offered me, myself, my grandmother, and my brother separate hotel rooms to house us and our respective spouses within walking distance to the venue. No renting a car, no stress. It would be an easy in and out once we arrived in the city. We would just have to get ourselves there and he would take care of the rest. I want to point out that my dad is financially secure and none of this would have put him in dire straits. My brother and his wife flew in and I was going to fly, but I live within a day's driving distance of my aunt. And while initially I was going to fly, at the last minute something made me change my mind. I told my dad I was going to drive and he said to me, "What in the world are you doing that for?" But honestly, I wanted to have access to a car, and I guess as a safety measure, I threw in the trunk a sleeping mat, a blanket, and a pillow. And I guess I just had a feeling that things were gonna go bad. So me, my dad, and my brother and his wife are meeting my dad at my grandmother's house when all of us get into town, which is a full 25 miles away from where my aunt is getting married in a few days. No one has rented a car and my grandmother doesn't drive. So my car is the only car that we all have, but it's totally fine. We're all moving to the hotel soon, right? Well, I couldn't be more wrong. My father calls the hotel to ask about parking since I have the car that he insisted we didn't need, and the hotel informs him that you need to pay if you want to park. Well, my entitled father finds this to be the last straw, even though this was the only straw. All our plans are coordinated, but for some reason, upon hearing that the parking isn't free, he proceeds to cancel all of our hotel reservations. And he does this just like that on the spot. And this is all because of the cost of parking, which is something I would have happily paid for, but no, instead he cancels everything. I was taken back at this, and I asked where he expected everybody to sleep. My father then pointed to the floor. "You, your brother, and your brother's wife can sleep right there." Now, I need to point out that my grandmother lives alone, and my dad was in the guest room. Other than that, she has no accommodation, she has no extra pillows, bedding, or anything like that. The living room had a chair and a table. I mean, her house only had 2 rooms. None of us are kids anymore, and we would all just literally be sleeping on the floor. And this is all after being promised that we would be taken care of. My dad is a massive jerk in general, so a part of me was not surprised by this at all. And I think that's why in the back of my mind, I drove and brought supplies with me. So now we had to scramble. I ended up driving my father to the car rental place because now we had to cart everybody around, and I spent 3 days hauling everybody about. My brother and his wife were also lucky to buy their own reservations at another hotel nearby, so I carted them around to and fro, and my father and I drove everybody to the rehearsal dinner, the wedding, the reception, and the breakfast on Sunday for opening the gifts. I ended up being the only one sleeping on the floor in the living room, but I took it in stride while making a mental note to never trust my father ever again. He's not really a great guy, but for some reason this was like the worst thing he's ever done. And I guess this is because he basically said, "I have everything taken care of, just show up." But then he turns around and makes everybody scramble for everything at the last minute. And I'm honestly so sickened by his behavior, and I really hope I never deal with this kind of treatment ever again. Wow, your dad is a massive jerk, and he seems like the most sensitive man on planet Earth. You mean to tell me that he canceled all of your hotel reservations, all because you brought your own car to this wedding event? Like seriously, there's no reason for that. In fact, the only reason I can think of is because he wanted to have full control over you and your siblings the entire time. He wanted you to be completely reliant on him, so he could basically like lord over you the entire time. Like that is insane behavior in my opinion, and the fact that he did that under the guise guise of, oh, this is going to be easy for you guys. There's going to be no stress and it's going to be so simple. Like, that alone is really misleading, and clearly you can see his intentions were completely the opposite. Because just imagine if you did something he didn't like, and then he not only canceled your hotel reservations, but also he refused to get you where you needed to go in his car. So yeah, your dad's a massive jerk for what he did, because he overreacted big time, and you and your family did not deserve that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled old jerk blocks my car from leaving my parking spot, all because he was so obsessed about the tiny car that I drive. But after I nearly sprayed that guy in the face with bear spray, this entitled old jerk finally gets the picture and runs off. And I'm honestly still shaken up, and I seriously hope I never deal with anyone like that ever again. Here's what happened. So I drive a small electric car. It's fully paid for, it gets me from point A to point B, and it's honestly just right for me. I went grocery shopping, and when I was leaving, this entitled old man yells out and says to me, "Watch out in that tiny car." Now, when he said that, I completely ignored him, and I just kept packing my groceries. I then hear footsteps and a closer, loud voice screaming from behind me. He says again, "You need to watch out in that tiny car." And once again, I just completely ignore him. My car is parked ahead, and he's not in a car. I mean, nobody's driving anything. I just want to get home and make some breakfast. So I get in my car, and when I look up, I see the entitled old man in his car quite literally beginning to pull in behind my car. At this point, he is idling and hanging out the window, yelling at me that once again, I need to watch out in that tiny car. But just like before, I just ignored him. He then steps out of his car, which was still parked right behind me, by the way, and walked over to the window. Now, at this point, I open my glove box and I grab my can of bear spray. The entitled old man gets out of his car, starts walking towards the driver's side window, and says to me, "Can't you hear me? Watch out in your tiny car. Why are you driving a car so small?" I then point the can at him through the window, and I scream, "Back off and get away from me." When I said this, he didn't move. So I hit the panic alarm on my key. By now, there's a few other shoppers staring at this situation, but not really doing anything to intervene. But regardless, I felt somewhat safer knowing other people were seeing this go down. The entitled old man finally gets the hint and gets back in his car. He then yells at me, "I was just trying to help out," and then he speeds off into the distance. I'm still rattled and extremely pissed off. I should have just sprayed that idiot without saying anything. The guy was in his 70s and thought that planting his car in order to block me from exiting a parking spot was somehow going to be helpful to me. But for some old entitled jerk, him saying that he just wanted to help looks and feels incredibly sketchy, and I really hope I never deal with anyone in this manner ever again. Yeah, it really seemed like that old man was really just asking to get sprayed in the face with bear mace. What in the world was he thinking, walking up to somebody like that and being like, "Oh, not only am I going to block you from leaving, but I'm also going to approach your window and scream these crazy delusional things." It's like, yeah, I'm aware. I know that I have a tiny car. It's not that big of a deal. He doesn't have to literally follow you into the parking lot, block your exit with his car, and then start pestering you through your window. So truly, that guy was out of his mind, and he absolutely deserved to get sprayed in the face, especially if he's going to be bothering you in that kind of way. Am I the jerk for taking away my brother's +1 invite to my wedding after he tries to bring along somebody who's incredibly toxic and a person who always makes a scene no matter what she does? Because right now he is very upset with me, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I want to start off by saying that I know I am the jerk, but I need to know how bad it was. My brother is 29 years old, and he has been with someone who we will call Leah for about 2 years. Leah is not her real name, and for the record, we like Leah a lot. She is super nice. I am getting married next April, and I sent an invite to my brother's apartment. We decided to send invites to households and not individuals. For example, our aunt received an invite for her family and not for each individual. Last Thursday, we met at my parents' place, and it was just the core family members there. While we were there, I asked my brother about Leah's dietary restrictions. I know that she is vegetarian for health reasons, and that she cannot have certain raw vegetables. He said that she wasn't going to come, and that he was taking his girl best friend Amanda instead. Amanda is also not her real name. Now, their relationship is very weird. Amanda has always been stringing my brother along, in my opinion, and he always denies having feelings for her, but honestly, I think he's completely full of it. Amanda would date other guys, blow off my brother, then when things were on the decline with her partners, she would be attached to him once again. Her last boyfriend broke up with her right around the time my brother, his then ex-girlfriend, Amanda, and her ex were supposed to travel to Spain. So what did my idiot brother do? He went with Amanda alone alone because Amanda was uncomfortable with his ex-girlfriend. And obviously, he acted blindsided when his girlfriend broke up with him. I didn't even say anything anymore because it's all just so weird. So when he said that, I asked if Leah already had other plans, but my brother said that Amanda had asked if she could come because it would be an opportunity to finally see the old gang, as we were in the same friend group in high school. Well, I told him that I would have invited Amanda if I wanted her there. But here's the thing, Amanda is mean and cold. She always makes disparaging comments about other girls, and at every event around 1 hour in, she will make some sort of scene that either has her running away crying or sitting mad at a table, telling everyone to leave her alone, and then make a cryptic comment about something hurting her. Well, as a result, I told my brother I was revoking his +1 and that Amanda was not coming to our wedding. He then accused me of being misogynistic, all because I don't understand opposite gender friendships, which is just total BS. My husband has a female childhood friend who is his best woman. I love her too, and she has been amazing, and she respects boundaries. She always includes me and made a huge effort when I started dating my fiance to integrate me into the friend group. Anyways, I said that my decision was final. He could take it or leave it, but I would be inviting Leah myself because I like her. He then screamed at me and told me to keep out of his business, but I said that he needs to get rid of his weird feelings towards Amanda, and at this point, he's very mad at me. So am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? No, to be completely honest, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think your brother's a complete moron for not bringing Leah to your wedding. For starters, I think the main issue here is that you do not want Amanda at your wedding, and that in my opinion is completely reasonable. It makes perfect sense that you would not want her coming along, especially with the way she's acted in the past. And I really feel like this has nothing to do with your brother either. Like, even by herself, I feel like Amanda would probably cause some kind of problem at your wedding, and that is not something I would even want to begin to entertain in the slightest. Like, seriously, you just want a drama-free wedding, so for him to be like, no, I'm not going to bring my girlfriend that the family likes, I'm going to bring this one girlfriend that I'm denying having feelings for, despite all these other instances of him basically proving that yes, he does still have feelings for her. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for not wanting Amanda at your wedding, because at the end of the day, this is your wedding, and if you don't want her showing up, then that's exactly the way that it's gotta be. An entitled jerk demands that I buy him his cigarettes after I helped a kid pay for his chocolate milk that he couldn't quite afford. And when I told him that I wasn't gonna do that, this guy lost his mind, resulting in him getting denied service and eventually kicked out of my convenience store. Here's what happened. So I used to work at a little convenience store in a very small town. Every customer was a regular. I had this one kid who was about 12 years old, and he came every school day on his bike. He bought a chocolate milk and a thing of cheese crackers every day. The total at the time was $2.08 after tax, and the kid always paid in change, almost like it came straight out of his piggy bank. One day, he came in with this look that said he really had a bad day. He shuffled through the store and grabbed his usual stuff, but was short about 10 cents. He went to put his crackers up, but I pulled a dime out of my pocket. I smiled at him and said that it's all good and that he can enjoy his snack. Well, when I did that, the kid thanked me and he left looking quite a bit happier. The next customer was a regular as well, but he was a man in his 40s wanting his usual pack of cigarettes. I ring him up and I tell him the total, but he smiles and says, "Well, aren't you gonna pay for it?" I tell him no, I'm not gonna do that, but he proceeded to yell at me that if I'm buying customer stuff, then I should have to pay for his cigarettes. At this point, there is a line of customers behind him that saw what had happened with the kid, but I told him that there's a difference between helping a kid who is slightly short for an after-school snack and a full-grown man trying to force a woman to buy his smokes. He then starts yelling at me about favoritism, and I just look at him in the eyes and I say, yeah, so what? He proceeds to yell insults at me before I simply grab his cigarettes and I put them back on the shelf. The guy then says to me, "What are you doing? I'm buying those." I responded by saying, "Not today and not from me. Please leave." He then starts to reach across the counter when I step back away from him. Now, it's important to note that I was about 7 months pregnant at the time, and stepping back revealed my pregnant belly. I'm short, so the counter typically hid this feature. I wasn't doing it to reveal anything, I was just getting out of his reach. At this point, the customers behind him almost started a riot about him attacking a pregnant woman for helping a kid. And right after that, this guy was no longer a regular. He left in a huff, and every customer behind him started an after-school snack fund for that kid. It started with the first guy putting an extra $1 on the counter for the kid, and it just kept going till I set a jar. And as a result, the kid had free chocolate milk for almost a month before I had to go on maternity leave. And I'm honestly just proud that we were still able to help that kid, even though that other jerk tried to make such a big fuss out of it. Wow, that guy's a massive jerk. Who in their right mind would make a big deal about that and try to be like, ooh, if you're gonna pay for that kid's stuff, you gotta pay for mine as well. Like, this guy does know he's a 40-year-old man sitting there being like, buy my cigarettes, do it right now. The original poster literally just gave a dime to help this kid out. And this guy really wants to act like this is the end of the world. Like, seriously, that is such awful behavior. And I really hope that this guy is completely ashamed of himself. Am I the jerk for refusing to go back to my parents' house? All because of my little sister who lives there and for the way that she's been treating me. Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old female and I'm in college. And when the semester finished a couple of weeks ago, I had planned to stay with some friends. But my parents told me that they wanted me to come home so bad and that I should spend time with my family. Namely, it would be my parents and my 15-year-old sister. So I went home for summer break, but I really did not want to be there because I feel like my parents spoil my younger sister and I find it so annoying, and her attitude can be really annoying as well. But they are still my family, so I'm trying to do what I need to do. Well, it lasted 3 days when I found out my sister had put a camera in my room. I was so mad, and my sister told me I was being such a drama queen and that there's nothing wrong with getting some footage of me. She seriously tried to claim that it was no different to home movies. My parents were telling me to calm down while I confronted my sister, and they acted like she was a baby who didn't get what she was doing. But she is old enough to know so much better, and she's old enough to be taught at the very least. I ended up deleting all the stuff I found on me and my sister's laptop, and then I went to my friend's place like I had originally planned. My parents thought that I was just gone for the night, but I told them that I wasn't coming back. They gave me a few more days, and when they realized I was serious, they told me I need to come back home sometimes, and in the heat of the anger I'm still feeling, I told them I won't go back in their house as long as my sister still lives with them. Now, what I really should have said and what I do feel is that there's no point for me to go back to them anymore when they value her way more than me, and they don't seem to care about me in the slightest. Because seriously, acting like it was no big deal for what she did is just so incredibly gross. My parents told me that I shouldn't talk that way with my younger sister and that I'm throwing a toddler's temper tantrum instead of responding to all of this like an adult would. So honestly, am I the jerk for refusing to go back? Because right now I am still so angry with them, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this story really upsets me because this is not okay. I don't care who you are, you cannot secretly record somebody against their will. That is incredibly sketchy, there's no good excuse for that, and honestly, I just cannot believe anybody in their right mind would ever justify that. Your parents are sitting there acting like, wow, you're just so overreacting right now. You're throwing a toddler's temper tantrum, you need to calm down and talk like an adult. And it's like, what are you talking about? Any reasonable adult would be like, oh yeah, your 15-year-old sister is grounded for like a year for doing that. And by the way, this is not the same thing as having a home movie. This is literally your sister violating your privacy and also doing something illegal depending on where you live. Because for example, if you live in the United States like I do, I'm willing to bet in most places that if you record somebody secretly against their will, I'm pretty sure that's illegal and you can get in serious trouble if you pursue that. So for your parents to be like, oh wow, you're just getting so worked up over this, that is crazy in my opinion, and that is not okay. And it really does prove that they spoil their younger sister and they clearly feel that she could do no wrong. So no, you are not the jerk for not going back, because if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would go back there, because any semblance of trust I would have in them is completely shattered, and I just don't think that you should have to deal with that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for telling my younger siblings that I'm not their dad and that they need to stop acting like I'm their parent? Here's what happened. I'm a 22-year-old male, and my parents had me at 19 years old, and I was the only child for 6 years. They then had 3 kids back to back, who are now 16, 15, and 14. My parents were never the most attentive parents, but they did a better job with my younger siblings than they did with me. But at some point, while my siblings were still really young, they started to come to me like I was an adult instead of going to my mom and dad, and they just kind of let it happen. Now, they were still there, but my siblings would ask me to make them food, or they'd ask me for money, even though I didn't have any back then, or they'd want me to help them with homework, or they'd come to me if they're struggling to do their chores. Needless to say, it got annoying very quickly, and I asked my parents to step in so that I wasn't always saying no, or having a sibling throw a temper tantrum, all because I wasn't acting like more of an adult than the parents in the house who were supposed to be there to do stuff for them. My parents were there for the basics, and if my siblings didn't come to me, they would deal with stuff, but otherwise they seemed glad to not have to deal with all of the parenting. But they still were not as good with me as they were with my siblings. It was some things like prioritizing supporting my siblings instead of me, or making a big effort for their birthdays but not mine. Christmas was another time it was super obvious because my siblings got gifts that they wanted, but I would get gifts that I just really needed. Stuff like hygiene products or socks or even underwear. I brought it up to my parents when I was 15 years old, and they used the excuse that they had me at 19 17, so they just didn't know how to connect with me in the same way, and they didn't have the means to provide for me like they did my siblings. When I learned how to drive and started working, my siblings relying on me got worse. They wanted me to drive them places, give them money. They wanted me to take them to school and pick them up. They would expect me to buy birthday gifts for their friends and take them shopping for that stuff. My youngest sibling even asked me to be a parent chaperone on a field trip when I was only 16 years old. It was all so suffocating, and my siblings could not be spoken to about it. They just wanted me to be the dad. And in fact, they even called me dad sometimes. I was desperate to get out, and COVID almost completely messed me up, but I was very lucky that my girlfriend's family let me move in with them. Once I left, I tried to better enforce my boundaries and create a distance, but they still wanted me there, and they would cry down the phone about me leaving and not being there for stuff. Now that my siblings are teenagers, I tried to talk to them about it again, but my sister, who's 16 years old, said that I had to do these things because I'm supposed to. I asked her why I was supposed to do anything, and she said because you're basically our dad, and my brothers even agreed with her. Now, I will admit it, this really upset me, and I told them in a firm and angry tone that I am not their dad, and they needed to stop acting like I'm the parent of the house, because in reality, I'm their sibling. I'm the oldest for sure, but I'm not their parent and I'm not responsible for them. But they said that I was a jerk and that I should like taking care of them. So I'm honestly so frustrated, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. First of all, I don't think you're the jerk at all for telling them exactly what's up and explaining to them that no, you are not their parent. But also, your actual parents are the worst people on planet Earth. How are they not more involved in their kids' lives? They've basically put you in a corner and forced you to be the substitute parent that they never were. And that, in my opinion, is completely uncalled for. So no, you are not the jerk, because this is a responsibility that you should have never been responsible for from the beginning. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.